Chapter 466. Becoming a student again. The duel was going on for 15 minutes without either of them landing a blow on the other. As the minutes passed by, Diego gradually started to lose his stamina and breathed heavily. Tiredness was visible on his face and his moves. His fighting technique became more chaotic and less finesse. It was logical. Any fighter who couldn't touch his opponent would lose their mind and become somewhat of a wild fighter. Finally, Michael started to feel bored of evading the punches and kicks. He noticed the fall in badass points, so he decided to spice up the fight. "You really think less of alchemists, right?" Michael questioned Diego while simply evading another one of Diego's punches. He made dodging punches look so much easier. When your jaw is dislocated, a millisecond after these words reached everyone's ears, they saw Michael grab Diego's fist. Diego quickly used his other hand and tried to punch Michael, only to get caught by him once again. Bang! Holding Diego's two fists, Michael headbutted him with enough force to dislocate his jaw as said. The jawbone let out a crackling sound. Ribs are broken. Michael pulled Diego closer, without even giving Diego any time to scream in pain. Following the headbutt, Michael sent his knee to Diego's ribcage. Grr! Diego growled, immediately coughing out dark blood. Nose broken. Michael bent him down before sending his knee to Diego's nose. The crunching sound emanated from Diego's face. Ouch! Gilrine couldn't help raising his brows. At this point, Diego's body almost gave up. His ribs were broken. His jaw was dislocated and blood was gushing out of his broken nose. Diego's vision blurred. It took everything in him to stand on his feet. His body and mind screamed at him to give up, and the only thing that prevented him from giving up was Bethany, who was watching the duel horrified. Even Deacon, who had no good things to say about Diego, somewhat felt pity for him. Some students thought the duel went far enough and wanted the professor to intervene, only to see Professor Steinmeier enjoying the brutal fight with cookies. "You want some?" asked Gaia, looking at Gilrine. In normal situations, Gilrine would have taken the delicious buttery cookies in her hand. Considering it was not the case and shocked to see a professor act so cool instead of putting an end to the duel, he had no appetite. In fact, he lost his appetite for the ale he wanted to drink afterward. "Professor, shouldn't you stop the duel?" meekly asked Gilrine, suffering from severe concussion. The students noticed Michael finally let go of Diego and wondered what he was going to do next. After hearing what he just said, they started to have some ideas. At this moment, Diego was breathing heavily, drooling blood. One single 540 kick. That was all it took to knock the light out of Diego. The kick was elegant, fast and powerful. The kick literally sent Diego flying for a few meters before he crashed onto the ground. "You will need an alchemist and a healing potion." His voice was crystal clear. It was a statement directed to every single student who thought less of alchemy and alchemists. Even though Michael planned to specialize in every single specialization there was, he had a special place for alchemy in his heart. After all, alchemy was his first specialization, and the first things would always take a special place in people's hearts. After everything was said and done, Michael adjusted his collars. A duel with a bully like Diego may have been cringe, yet it earned him enough points to settle the debt to the system. "Now I can stop the duel," stuffing the last cookie in her mouth, she informed Gilrine. Then, she slowly descended near Diego. Bethany was standing in the front waiting for Gaia to conclude the battle. Pathetic, Gaia disappointedly shook her head, looking at Diego's unconscious body. "This is what reality looks like, students, except he would have been dead right now." Before concluding the battle, she spoke to the students around her. "You all take so much pride in being a warrior. But let me tell you something, out there, in the real world, you're just another young master and young miss. If you value your lives, I'd recommend you not to piss off any real warrior." She emphasized the word real warrior to shame the rest of them. To be honest, the students couldn't rebuke. Many knew that if they went against Diego, they would have lost the battle with or without arch energy. Her words formed a crack in their pride and ego. "He wins." Gaia simply pointed at Michael and said. Then she poked Diego with her toe. "And take him away." As soon as Gaia said this, Bethany rushed to Diego and placed his head on her lap. She gently opened his lips, pouring the healing potion into his mouth. Case in point, The smile that emerged on Michael's face made some alchemists proud, while almost all the warriors hated him and saw the smile as a snicker. Michael couldn't care less about the students' opinions of him. As far as he was concerned, this day was extremely fruitful. He trained, earned badass points, lured an arrogant asshole into his trap, earned badass points, beat the crap out of him and earned badass points. He walked away from the training grounds like nothing happened, leaving the crowd stunned. Victoria wasn't impressed by the result of the fight because she knew Diego had no chance against Ghost. However, she liked the fact that Ghost did not take any crap from Diego. He was ruthless, humiliated his opponent to leave a permanent scar, thus breaking the opponent's spirit, and left the area like a badass instead of showing off and boasting. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. What he just witnessed really made Elliot question whether he did the right thing or not by getting Professor Steinmeier fired. To be honest, he never expected Diego to be completely trashed by the alchemist student. Diego should have at least put up a decent fight, yet what happened was the complete opposite. Elliot wondered where the alchemist student hailed from and who was his mentor. What he displayed wasn't enough for anyone to fully comprehend or figure out what kind of fighting technique he mastered. Elliot, however, was able to tell that it was an extremely powerful and deadly fighting technique. The following days were pretty much uneventful. As one would expect, all the warrior students viewed Michael as their #1 enemy, while some alchemists tried to be his friend. Some students went another step and asked Michael to marry them. Michael politely refused their proposals. Those who asked to be his friend, however, received that blessing. He would refuse marriage proposals but not friendships. Connections were just as important as gold coins. Michael knew this. To summarize, Michael made quite a lot of friends in the alchemy house, and through Elidir, he also made connections with runemasters, though he failed to make any friends from the House of Blacksmiths. In a blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. During these 2 months, Gaia continued teaching the students the art of combat. Everything was just a pretense to keep her job and make her look like a great professor. The last thing she would do is teach her potential enemies to be stronger. Nightmare reached the core formation level 8 from level 5. In addition, he also learned a few battle tactics from Gilrine and the Magical Beasts professor. Meanwhile, Michael spent almost all of his time in the alchemy classroom with Professor Lane. During the classes, Professor Lane almost ignored the others and took a special interest in Michael. Professor Lane would often give the other students the task of concocting a pill or brewing a potion while giving Michael the toughest assignments, which Michael did with ease. The other students were jealous, but they would rather be ignored by Professor Lane than spend their time with him like Michael. Right at the moment, Michael and Lane were alone in the alchemy classroom as usual. They lost track of time and failed to notice the hour hand and the minute hand pointing at 12 in the clock. Use Chimera Strand. It will increase the potency and the purity, Professor Lane instructed Michael. But it'll make the potion unstable. We could use Kelpie's hair. It's common and doesn't smell like rotten eggs, Michael counter-argued with Professor Lane, which only a few had the guts and knowledge to do so. Michael had grown to like their exchange of knowledge. At first, Michael thought Professor Lane was just a 5-star alchemist and he had nothing new to teach him. However, he soon learned that he was completely wrong. Professor Lane was a 6-star alchemist. Only a few in Mazeroth knew this. Professor Lane was the reason for Michael to decide to stay in Mazeroth until graduation without leaving Ukulun Realm. Knowledge was power, and he was learning much more from Lane every day. Hearing his argument, Professor Lane approached the table with a bluish vial. He placed the vial on the table before him. That's why anyone with a brain should use a newt vial. It will make the potion stable, as usual. Professor Lane triumphed over Michael with his knowledge yet again. Everything he was learning from Lane was included in the next alchemy book the system recommended him to buy. The system required him to reach star level 6 if he wanted to absorb the knowledge from that book. Since he preferred not to spend 500,000 badass points on the Elven rune, he couldn't become a 6-star alchemist. Nonetheless, he was learning so much from Lane without spending a dime. Moreover, he was getting close to Lane, thus making him another powerful ally. If he could make Lane his subordinate, he would have a powerful subordinate under him, even though Michael knew the odds of doing so were extremely slim. With a flick of his wrist, Lane took a crate of newt vials from his space ring. The crate materialized on the table. You can use them in the upcoming talent exhibition. Professor Lane reminded Michael of the Mazeroth version of the tournament. Fortunately, Michael didn't have to battle young masters but to show his skills in alchemy. Chapter 467 New Day. New potion and new weaponry. Hey man, how is it going? Man, can you teach me how to extract the pure essence from the alpha bush? Dude, you're a lifesaver. I did what you told me and it worked. Michael was bombarded by greetings, gratitudes, and questions the moment he came through the common room door. Contrary to his initial plan, now Michael was extremely popular among the students. He earned and multiplied his popularity by helping other students, not to make them better alchemists but to form alliances. The students were prohibited to share their identity in public while they were in the Aculun realm. However, they weren't prohibited from reuniting outside of the Aculun realm. Michael used this loophole to make friends. Every time one became his friend, Michael asked them to come to his gala at Hades. This way, they wouldn't have to share their identities immediately. When they attend the gala, Michael would introduce himself and form an alliance with them and their families. This way, his influence would spread not only to Azer but also to the most powerful continent of them all, R. I'm gonna get some shut-eye. See you guys later. Michael really yawned when he was talking to them. He was so tired after pulling all-nighters for 3 days in a row. Even the Dark Lord wanted some rest. Michael's room was empty. Usually, Eladir would visit him and talk to Michael about enhancing the drones and spiders and discuss their next big project. Opening the door, he was welcomed by a messy room. The empty vials were lying all around the floor. The apparatus setup was still smoking and letting out crimson-red puffs of smoke, and jars filled with creepy-looking items as well as eyeballs of all colors. Even the walls were plastered with posters that resemble blueprints and chemical equations. In addition to the apparatus set up on the table, there were also many nuts and bolts along with several blueprints. Home sweet home. Michael's legs gave up as he collapsed onto the bed. The next thing he remembered was nothing but darkness. Michael, you have to mix burning buttons and fever buxus. No, it won't give you the vivid experience you are hoping for. New novel answers are published here. Elworld. Calm, radiant aniseed. You still have to see how much you should put inside. Forget about aniseed. You still haven't managed to find the formula to the counter-agent. Without the counter-agent, you're practically giving your enemies an ultimate weapon to be used against you. Are you crazy? You haven't even figured out the right formula. How do you plan to come up with an antidote? All these voices were ringing in his voice and having a chat of their own. His mind was working at full capacity to create a new potion that would help him in the long run. Lord Lucifer, Lord. Geesh, I didn't think a god could sleep like this. Weird that usually he would hear his own voices argue with each other, but now he heard Eladir's voice. His eyes refused to open up. The system and the environmental scanning map would alert him if any intruders entered the room. That's how Michael figured out whether he was still dreaming or it was Eladir who entered the room. Either way, he wasn't going to wake up just yet. It seems like he still hasn't figured it out. Eladir sat on the chair, taking out several empty parchments from the drawer. He was scribbling on the parchments, trying to come up with perfect runes to enhance Lucifer's armor and their new project. What is this? Among the parchment, one parchment had gray and blue lines on it. He opened it up curiously to see what was inside. They had been discussing the design for weeks without being able to find the right one. He was surprised by what he saw, the design. Eladir realized Lucifer finally figured it out. The tubular-shaped device was fitted with 4 wheels, a complex wiring, numerous rings of copper inside the device and mini pipes attached to every single ring that could be seen on the parchment. Wow, he finished it. Eladir was more excited than he thought. When Michael said they were going to build a long-range mortar for Old Bertha, Eladir deemed it a simple task. Then they started to work on the design. That's when they realized that building a mortar that's capable of firing powerful mini-torpedoes powered by arch energy absorbed from the Stormville crystals. Of course, they couldn't forget the ability of the torpedoes fired from mortar to track their target using heat signature. If they managed to build the mortar successfully, they could modify the cannons to adapt to the revolutionary technology. By that time, the cannonballs fired from the cannons would hit the target with 97% accuracy. Updated _ at L-World. Thanks to Michael's recent upgrade to the 4-star inventor trait, he was able to build a mortar. The challenge was to integrate Elidir's runes, which would absorb the arch energy from the Stormville crystals and transfer the energy to the ammunition. Elidir had to come up with new runes to pinpoint other ships using the heat they radiate. Now that the design for the mortar has been done, it was his job to come up with the runes. You two are still on that? Elidir felt a chill running through his spine when he suddenly heard Gaia's voice. He quickly turned back to see her strolling into the room as she owned the room. She closed the door before Elidir could ask what the hell was she doing in their room. Then she walked straight to the bed. "Aw, look at my cutie pie." She sat on the bed beside her sleeping fiancé. She took his head onto her lap before gently combing his silky raven black hair. "Shimmer dust goes with," Michael was mumbling in his sleep. "Isn't he cute?" She was melted by his cuteness and couldn't help showering his face with kisses. Elidir was still in shock seeing her smooching with Michael in the middle of a day in a student's room. She was jeopardizing not only herself by being here but also the two of them. The troubled look on his face was visible through the dark lines on his forehead. "Quit worrying, half-elf. I'm conducting a room-to-room search to ensure the rules are being followed." She chuckled while saying those words. Elidir sighed, thinking how much she was abusing her power to get what she wants and what they want. His frowns soon turned to a peal of laughter. "I have 15 minutes. She wrapped her hand around him to transfer the scented warmth from her. Elidir knew there was no point arguing with this woman. She was a wraith after all. While he was picking his brain to create entirely a new rune, Lucifer was getting kisses from a pretty girl and playful headbutts as though she was a lamb. Their relationship reminded him of the relationship between him and Gaia's ancestor Edwina Wraith. He would give anything to see her one more time. Nonetheless, it was heartwarming to see her descendant has found someone who truly loves her. The more Elidir spent time with Lucifer, the more he realized how wrong the Skyhall was about him. He heard Lucifer's side of the story and realized that Skyhall actually pushed him onto the path to become the Dark Lord. He had no choice. Even if he strayed away from his path and decided to live peacefully, they wouldn't let him. They would chase him to the end of the world. For more _ visit L-World. Did he eat something?" Gaia asked Elidir. "How would I know?" Elidir responded while drawing the new runes on the parchment. "The sooner you two finish whatever you two are doing, the better. We might soon." Elidir turned back with the parchment containing the design for the new mortars. He finished the design of the new mortars. Elidie handed over the parchment to Gaia as she stared at the design for a few moments. Then a look of surprise emerged on her face. Her eyes widened. "So they can really track the target shit and destroy it?" Elidir nodded. "Yes, I'm close to creating the required rune. The only catch is, we will need a huge amount of the crystals you showed me. A weapon like this wouldn't come so easily, so what Elidie said wasn't a surprise for Gaia. Speaking of crystals, I need an update on the new mining machine we asked Caius to build. They now fully controlled the Stormville mountain and were mining the crystals in full force. Yet, the process was extremely slow and inefficient due to a lack of advanced mining tools. To solve this issue, Michael designed new hydraulic rock drillers and pulley systems. Caius was tasked with finding engineers and scholars to transform the blueprints into actual machines. Due to the sensitivity of the task, each and everyone who had been working on the project was given a pendant attached to the spider. The spiders were constantly watched by Azazel, and if anyone let out a word about the project, they would be immediately killed by the spider. Until now, no one dared to utter a word, partially due to the fact they were being paid in hundreds of thousands. The Southerners valued gold coins more than anything, so it was easy for Caius to keep them in line. Plus, Michael's business endeavors were extremely fruitful. He was earning millions through the Hades and Majestic. The pirate fleet under Corey and Maxine had been turned from pirates to sea guards. If a merchant ship carried valuable cargo, they could either pay 30% or be sent back to whatever they came from. On their way back, they might or might not be attacked by pirates and lose all the cargo, and these pirates may or may not be connected to Maxine. Almost 98% of the merchants chose to pay 30% rather than face the wrath of pirates. At first, the pirates were reluctant to change, but after tasting loot they got by without even raising a finger enticed them. Now they were happily working as border patrol officers and getting what they wanted by negotiating instead of battling. Full_new_episode_da on the L World. COM platform. So are you going to show any new runes in the talent exhibition or ignore it like him? Gaia asked as Eladir pondered about the upcoming talent exhibition for a few moments. I think the last thing we want is to make Sky Hall stronger. Talent exhibitions do just that. Chapter 468 Live feed from Alpha Guardian's warship. You sleep well, human. I will see you later, said Gaia, gently placing a soft kiss on Michael's forehead. The 15 minutes flew by in a blink of an eye. She hated to leave him, yet she had no choice. When we are gonna leave this place? That was the question running in her mind for some time. Because of her job and his role as a student, they couldn't spend time with each other as they used to. 8 months were gone, and 10 months remained until he could graduate and leave this place for good. I love you, Michael said before she could stand up and leave. I love you too, she whispered into his ears. Then, she left the room, but not without ruffling his hair playfully. Almost 3 hours later, Michael opened his eyes. There was still exhaustion in his eyes. When he woke up, he noticed Eladir was attaching a parchment to the wall. Then, he assessed the system for a second to look at the time. It was 4:30. Fortunately, he had no classes for the day, so he had some free time to spare. How is it going? Michael rubbed his eyes to adjust his sensor to the light. You're awake, Eladir exclaimed, as he continued to draw some symbols on the parchment in front of him. They had their curtains closed, so the room remained always gloomier and dark. Right at the moment, however, the room was getting brighter and brighter. In addition, there was also a low-pitched whistling sound emanating from the parchment. Michael's sleepiness quickly disappeared as he strolled toward Eladir. Alas, I finished it, Eladir proudly exclaimed, looking at the purple rune on the parchment. For Michael, the rune resembled the symbol of Gemini. Only the symbol before him was letting out a bright purple glow. This part can and will absorb the arch energy from the crystals and send it to the mortar. Eladir ran his finger on the crescent-shaped top part of the symbol. Then he moved his finger to the bottom of the symbol. The auto-targeting using heat signatures, this part is responsible for that. All we need now is to build the device and test it out on a target. He willed the system to take out a spy cam from the system storage. The next second, the spider materialized on his palm. He pointed at the spider's eyes to the wall. Azazel, are you getting this? He connected his earpiece with Azazel. Full_current_novel on L World. Yes, my lord. Should I give this recording to Master Jonah? Every time Michael wanted to transfer the blueprint from Aquilon to the outside world, he would use the spider to record the contents, which could be seen and recorded by Azazel. The demon butler would hand over the recording to Jonah. He was responsible for drawing the blueprints on parchment and sending them to whoever Michael asked him to. Communication between him and Azazel remained undetected by Mazroth security arrays. However, the system warned him that with its current level, it's unable to send items such as parchments, runes, and herbs from Mazroth to the outside world. Luckily for Michael, Jonah proved to be great at replicating blueprints. What are you going to do about the rune? He won't be able to copy this, asked Eladir. We need to wait until after the talent exhibition, Michael nonchalantly said. You mean the break? Yeah. At that time, we can get out of here and finish the mortar. While he was learning from Lane, Michael heard that the students will get a 1-month holiday. Of course, Lane seemed against the idea of giving the students a break. His exact words were, they are already buffoons with acorn-sized brains. Breaks will only reduce the size of their brain further. Fortunately, Lane was not responsible for the holidays. It was up to Headmistress Kayla, and she saw no reason not to give them a break. Michael planned to utilize this break to get out of Aquilon Realm and see how things are outside. Lord Lucifer. Michael's train of thoughts was interrupted by Azazel's voice in his head. You should take a look at this live feed. Michael was able to sense the acute amusement in Azazel's voice. The demon butler rarely showed any feelings other than being calm and collected. Therefore, when Michael sensed the change in his voice, he was more than curious. He quickly waved his hand as a 36-inch dark mirror appeared before Eladir and him. The mirror hovered over to the wall and attached itself to the wall. Full_out current_novel on L-World. COM. The interior of the war room in Alpha Guardian's airship was rather simple. The circular room had one door on the east side, a large round stone table in the center, and above the stone table was a chandelier to light the table below. One could count 11 stone chairs around the table. At the moment, a golden-haired elf and 2 humans dressed in red metal armor with golden engravings occupied the chairs. The 2 soldiers looked pale. They almost looked as though they had just come out of the shower. They couldn't help sweating uncontrollably, mainly due to the fear of what was going to happen to them when the Alpha Guardian returned from the headquarters. The golden-haired elf was Tiriana, the best friend and the second in command to the Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians. The trio had no clue that another entity is in the room and transmitting everything they do and talking to the Dark Forest. The Battle of Hades concluded when the Alpha Guardians appeared with her soldiers. They took all the ninjas sent to attack everyone in the Hades. Michael wanted to kill many and take a few as prisoners so he could interrogate them to find out who sent them in the first place. His plan was rudely interrupted by the Alpha Guardians. Although he failed to take the ninjas prisoners, he left a spider on each of the survivors. The Alpha Guardian beamed up everyone to her warship. Without her knowing, the spiders infiltrated every corner of the warship and sent Azazel a live feed ever since. "What do you mean you lost them?" Tiriana slammed the stone table in anger. "My lady, we found this in the safe house." The soldier who had a tall stature, silver hair, and blue eyes placed a metal card on the table. He then rotated the table as the card reached Tiriana. Her vengeful eyes finally moved from the soldiers to the black card in front of her. She took the card. It didn't feel heavy or anything. There was nothing on the card except the letter D was embossed in crimson red. The card immediately reminded her of Lucifer, but then, he always used the letter L, not D. Still, she couldn't dismiss the troubling thought that Lucifer may have captured someone far more important to them. Magnir Tyria cast a spell as a bright light enveloped the card. The light then slowly hovered over to the air above the table, forming the enhanced image of the card. The image took the form of a holograph. The 2 soldiers stared at the card while Tiriana pointed her finger at the card, drawing a few symbols in the air. As soon as she stopped drawing the symbols in the air, a red smudge that resembled a fingerprint appeared on the card, just beside the letter D. "That's blood." Tiriana's brows creased. "But we didn't see any signs of battle or blood stains in the safe house?" The other soldier, who wore the same armor but had golden hair and an oval face, responded to Tiriana's words with a mix of shock, doubt, and confusion. "Were you able to locate the handler or any of the team members, Orb?" Tyrian asked while still looking at the blood smudge on the card. "We tried, but to no avail, my lady. All of their communications orbs are offline," the silver-haired soldier answered. Following his answer, Tyria continued to draw some symbols in the air. Unlike before, nothing changed. Updated_at L-World. This is serious. We must find her." The anger in her eyes was replaced by concern. "I need everything you have on her target on my table within the next hour. Got it?" The soldiers stomped the ground, saluting her. "Yes, my lady." They left the room, leaving the sound of heavy thuds and Tiriana. For the next hour, she analyzed the card using every rune and spell she had in her arsenal. Yet, she found nothing. No clue, no hint, no marks of any kind to locate whoever left the card. "I have to tell Tanulia," she mumbled under her breath. Tanulia was known to Michael as the Alpha Guardian elf who he met in Hades. Azazel had never seen Tanulia in the warship after she brought the ninjas. According to the Guardians he eavesdropped on, Tanulia left for the Guardian Guild headquarters in Ar for some important meeting with the other Alpha Guardians. An hour later, the 2 soldiers came into the room carrying a small crate containing numerous parchments. "This is all the information about the Operation Desert Eagle, my lady." The silver-hair soldier placed the crate on the table, took the parchment out of it one by one, placed it on the table, and rotated the table once again. "Leave." Tyrian uttered an order. Usually, her voice would have sounded gentle and melodious. Now, however, It sounded stern and intimidating. "Yes, my lady." The soldiers lingered no longer as they quickly rushed out of the room before they suffered the wrath of Tiriana. After the soldiers left the room, she opened the parchments one by one. Magnir, every time she opened a parchment, she cast the spell. Then, the bright light enveloped the parchment before forming an enlarged holographic image of the parchment in the air above the table. Each holographic image hovering in the air contained a drawing of either a man or a woman. Michael, who was witnessing the scene through the spider, immediately recognized not one but two. New_chap_ters are pub_list on L-World. That's Peyton. He saw Peyton in the mirror before him. Then he noticed another familiar face. Although she too had blonde hair like Peyton, she was far more prettier than Peyton. Sabrina Winston. Chapter 469 Vampires. Michael was flabbergasted to see Sabrina on the missing person list. Several questions, such as what was she doing with Guardians? What was their mission? Where is Noah? Where did they go? Appeared in his mind. Looking at the change in his face, Eladir asked, "You know her?" Michael nodded. "That my friend is." The future Supreme Guardian's little sister Eladir was visibly surprised. He didn't think Lucifer would know who the next Supreme Guardian is. As though Michael guessed his next question, he smiled at Eladir. "Killing Noah is out of the question, Eladir. That old smoke made sure that never happens. At least it will not happen until I get stronger by stronger." He meant upgrading the system. To upgrade the system to version 5.0, he needed a whopping amount of 600,000 badass points. The system required him not to act against Noah at least until he upgraded the system to version 8.0. He really wondered what the hell Andreas did for the system to be so careful and cautious. "Which one? Andreas McLeod?" Eladir asked as Michael nodded. "Do you know him?" Michael turned his gaze away from Sabrina's face to Eladir. He felt curious and wanted to know about the famous Supreme Guardian Andreas McLeod. "Never met him, but I heard he was a real hard ass and a prodigy. So this Noah person, how much does he know about you?" Eladir rubbed his chin. "Not much. I saved his family once or twice. He definitely has no idea about my identity. If he does, the entire guild would be at my doorstep the next moment." Michael chuckled. They saw Tiriana scroll through every single parchment on the table. Michael counted 11 missing people, including Sabrina and Peyton. Several minutes later, Tiriana waved her hand as another holographic image containing a man's face and details such as name, cultivation level, and threat level appeared above the table. Visit L-World. .com for a better reading experience. Victor. Michael saw the face of a short brown-haired man with a muscular build. He had a great memory. Hence, he recognized the man. Almost 16 months ago, he met the man when he visited Phoenix Island for the auction. He was one of the core strengthening stage warriors who received special treatment from Lord Julius. After offending Julius by killing Maria, Michael used teleportation to escape with Gaia. Before activating the scroll, he left a note in Victor's pocket with the help of the system. Michael asked Victor to meet him on the note, except to this date, Michael never saw Victor again until now. Under Victor's image, he saw the word high threat level and became surprised. Victor seemed to have managed to reach core strengthening stage level 6 from level 4. His threat level was higher than Michael imagined. As he was staring at the images, another row of information appeared beside Victor. Last seen. Michael received another surprise. According to the holographic image, Victor was last seen traveling to the southern continent. The plot thickens. Michael frowned. Tiriana was collecting every bit of information she could about Operation Desert Eagle. Everyone, including the leader of the operation and the help brought from the outside, had gone missing. While rummaging through the parchment, Tiriana heard the door suddenly open. She almost jumped back in sudden shock. Her heart calmed down when she saw her best friend and the Alpha Guardian, Tanulia Valrin, enter the war room. Tanulia, instead of addressing her as Alpha Guardian like the rest of the Guardians, Tiriana called her by the name, stood up, and hugged her tight. "I heard about what happened. It's not your fault. Let's find them." Tanulia patted Tiriana on the back. Everything said and done, the motherly expression on Tanulia's face disappeared. Instead, a stern, dominant, pissed-off look replaced the previous expression. What do we know about the target? Tanulia used her dominant Alpha Guardian voice. Victor Hagen, last known cultivation stage core strengthening level 6, last seen traveling to the southern continent in a merchant ship. Tanulia listed the basic information about Victor. 15 months ago, several young men had started to disappear in the outskirt villages of Drattle and Kethin. A few weeks after the disappearance, their bodies were found, mutilated, and Tiriana paused for a moment, and completely drained of blood in the forest surrounding the villages. The number of disappearances increased, and every time, a week after, the bodies turned out to be as same as before, mutilated and drained of blood. Any similarities among the victims? Asked Tanulia. There is only one, the bite mark. Every single victim had a bite mark on their lower neck. Vampires? Michael was taken aback by surprise. What she said matched the description of vampire killings. However, he didn't know this world had vampires. The most up-to-date NOV_Ls are published here. L World. This matter was brought to the guild's attention by Kethin's king, Porter Forbes. Through a thorough investigation conducted by Guardian Captain Gerard Atkins and his team, they found clues connecting Victor to the victims. They sent a team of guardians, but they were all killed. Tiriana paused for a moment and continued. They were all killed in the same manner. Mutilated, completely drained of blood, and all of them had bite marks. Tanulia listened to Tiriana, showing no visible expression on her face. However, she was raging inside after hearing that Victor killed the guardians. Regardless of their race, they were guardians. Killing a guardian was a crime punishable by death, and if one was to commit this crime, the hunter guardians would hunt him or her to the end of the world. Because of the threat level, Guardian Captain Gerard initiated Operation Desert Eagle and assigned Peyton as the leader of this operation. Michael curiously waited for the part where Sabrina got involved in this. She was supposed to be studying at Holy Trident Academy. There was no reason for Sabrina to mingle with the Guardians except for her brother. However, something told Michael that Noah wasn't involved in this. If he did, Sabrina would have gone missing. Peyton recruited these Guardians and, with a flick of her wrist, Tiriana brought the images of 10 Guardians before Tanulia. She then hesitated for a second. Noticing the reluctance shown by Tiriana, Tanulia creased her brows. What is it, Tiri? The last member she recruited is Sabrina. Tiriana waved her hand as Sabrina's image appeared directly in front of Tanulia. Sabrina Winston, Noah's little sister. As soon as Tiriana spoke these words, Tanulia's composure completely changed. She slammed the stone table as the images started to flicker. What? Tanulia's roar echoed through the war room. What the fuck was she thinking? Tanulia's creamy white skin turned red along with her eyes, which now looked as red as fire. She recruited someone who's not even a guardian? She slammed the stone table once again. Seeing Tanulia's outburst, Tiriana took a step back. Her legs were uncontrollably shaking because she had never seen Tanulia this furious before. That bitch is expendable. But not her. Tanulia pointed at Sabrina. If we are to lose Sabrina and Noah found out that his little sister died because of us, everything will be ruined. Michael confirmed his suspicion. Noah indeed had no idea about his sister's disappearance. What's up with that girl and trouble? Michael shook his head disappointedly. Despite his feud with Noah and the Supreme Guardian, Michael had a good impression on everyone in his family. Diana and Ethan always treated him like another son. Imelda and Natalia was cool too, but now after the tournament, Michael had a feeling that they might not treat him as they used to. Despite Michael nearly beating Andrews to death, Sabrina acted as though she was his little sister in front of him. Michael too liked Sabrina. Visit L World. For the best known certainty experience regardless. Now it seemed as Sabrina Winston got herself into trouble yet again. This time Michael would not be there to save her, but if only Michael knew she was his little sister. We have to find her no matter what. Immediately contact every single guardian in the southern continent. I'm authorizing Code Red. Use all and any resources. I need Sabrina found ASAP. I will contact the other alphas. Unfortunately, Tanulia took out some kind of orb, and the next moment, she was beamed out from the warship to somewhere else. So Michael was unable to follow Tanulia. After Tanulia left the war room, Tiriana contacted the Guardians on the southern continent using several orbs. Her meeting with the Guardians took almost an hour. Only then, Tenulia appeared in the room once again with a golden parchment in her hand. Here, Tenulia threw the parchment to Tiriana as she cast the spell to enhance the continents. Magnir, just like before. The spell formed a light layer around the parchment before forming a holographic image of the contents above the table. The holographic image contained a black panther standing on its two legs like a human. The black panther had shiny fur, arms like humans, and wore a golden chain around its neck. "Send men to bring him to me," Tenulia ordered Tiriana. Although Tiriana had no idea who this beastman was, she had a feeling that this beastman might be the only one who could find Sabrina. On the other hand, Michael had a vague feeling that he met this Black Panther somewhere else before. Alpha Guardian? Who is this beastman? Tiriana noticed the change in Tenulia's voice and deemed she was less furious than before. So she asked the question that nagging her brain. "I had to call in a favor from Alpha Guardian Kasim to get his help. This beastman is the best hunter in this world." Hearing Tenulia, Michael began to connect the dots. He almost made the connection, and if he was right, he didn't meet the Black Panther, but he may have met someone related to the Black Panther. "How much are we paying him?" "Hunters don't come cheap," Tiriana asked, only to see Tenulia shake her head. "Not a single coin. He doesn't want any coins, he wants a favor from me. When the time comes, I have to help him kill someone." Tyrion was stunned. She tried to change Tenulia's mind about helping the panther and killing someone. "I gave my word. When the time comes, I will help him take a life dictator with a badass system." Hunter. Loading. Adjacent universe to HBS. You can _find the rest of this content on the L World. COM platform. Chapter 470 Logan. "Why do I have a feeling that Panther's target might be you, Lord Lucifer?" asked Eladir after Tenulia and Tiriana left the war room. "Because I killed who may have been his relative or a friend." The images of a Bengal tiger beastman flashed across Michael's mind. Jacoby sealed his fate by trying to capture Gaia, and he would have accomplished that if it wasn't for Michael's timely intervention. "We have a bigger problem now." Michael quickly cornered all his other thoughts in case the threat was as bad as he thought. He would have a crisis on his hand. It was not like Michael liked to play goody-two-shoes, but if Victor was a vampire and he was in the southern continent, he might start feeling on the southerners. The southern continent was Michael's stronghold where he wielded absolute power. Michael would let nothing happen to that stronghold until he built an army on the southern continent to conquer everyone and everything in this world. Only by doing this he could fight off the great clans. "Hey Eladir, have you ever heard of vampires?" Michael almost scoffed. 2 years ago, he would have laughed at the thought of vampires existing. He couldn't do that now because he was transmigrated to another world with the system. As far as he was concerned, anything was possible in this world. No, Eladir simply dismissed Michael's suspicion. However, Michael wasn't completely satisfied. There must be a whole lot of things that even Eladir, a few thousand-year-old ancient being, didn't know about. Azazel. Michael established a connection with his demon butler. "My lord," the butler responded in his utter obedient voice. "Contact everyone in the southern continent and order them to raise the security level. The villages in the outskirts must be guarded. No more reducing the strangers on the seas. They are to report to me immediately if they find anyone suspicious." While issuing orders to Azazel, he remembered something about vampires. "Be on the lookout for anyone wear dark clothes to avoid sunlight." "As you wish, my lord." After everything was said and done, Michael began his usual routine, trying to figure out the correct formula for his new potion. Even the system had no recipe for that. He was creating entirely a new potion, mixing alchemy and technology. The village of Rackdale was surrounded by lofty mountains and lush green fields. The hills were a beauty of their own, nature's beauty. Except for the name of the village, the people didn't change at all. From the time the village was founded, they grew vegetables, fruits, and other crops such as wheat, rice, and barley to support their lives. Twice a year, the crops would mature, and at that time, the village would look as though golden sheets blanketed it. Rackdale had a very little population, Most of them were farmers and the rest of them traveled with the merchants to Krilta, one of the towns in Giselle, and sold their harvest in the city to earn better. Updated _ at World. So they were simple people. They eat what they grew, they wear simple clothes, and most of all, they loved each other and always stood by each other in their time of distress. There was a strong bonding between every person in the village. They were definitely not rich but very kind-hearted. Today the village was muddy, containing several puddles of water and countless footmarks due to the heavy fall last night. Currently, the sun was setting behind the lush green mountains, painting the village in a mild orangey-red tint. There was always an apple tree in the village for a tired villager to sit under and relax. On the outside, the simple beauty of the village had a soothing effect on the eyes. The evening was their time to relax with their families and take well-deserved rest. However, at this moment, rest was the farthest thing from them. "We need to find my husband. My son has gone missing for 3 days. I have 5 goats missing from my farm." The village didn't have many big buildings. Most of the farmer houses were simple, built with brown woods found in the nearby forest and roofed using silver slabs sold for cheap in Krilta. Except for one building, none of them could hold more than 4 people, and that building was the village leader's house. At the moment, inside a hall lit with torches, the villagers were hollering at a 7-foot hulking man. He had medium-length brown hair, brown eyes, and a goatee. The man may have looked terrifying due to his hulking body and the man-sized warhammer he was carrying on his back. He was listening to the pissed-off villagers patiently. Boom! The sound of thunderclaps in the distance indicated the approaching heavy downpour. It was ominous. "Logan, we have to put together a party and search for them." An old man with a long beard walked out from the angry, worried mob of villagers. "Yeah, you were a mercenary before everything. You can come out of retirement and help us, Logan." A woman with puffy red eyes shouted from the crowd. Their words immediately brought down some of the memories Logan desperately wanted to forget. The images of his last job flashed across his mind. The gloomy crypt, the swarming undead, the dead bodies of his group, and the man who killed everyone. Ever since that day, Logan wondered why he left him alive. No! Logan's sudden thunderous roar instantly killed the commotion in the hall. The villagers shuddered as all their faces went pale. They had never seen Logan lose his calm ever. Reeling what his outburst did, Logan took a deep breath, calming himself down. "Tomorrow we will go to Freedom Town and request King Tiberius' help." Just before the people could react to his words, a teenage boy slammed the door open. The boy was running towards Logan, completely soaked wet. His face and leather armor was smudged with mud. Visit L-World. For the best known the experience, Captain Rogers. The youngster mumbled. Then some of the citizens saw it. The youngster was bleeding and they saw a dagger sticking through the youngster's back. "Dewey, he's bleeding," the villagers mumbled as the youngster stumbled down. Logan immediately caught him before the youngster could hit the floor. He then gently placed the youngster down. "Dewey, what happened? Where are Captain Rogers and the rest of your team?" While questioning the young man, Logan looked at the old man, telling him wordlessly to go and bring the village healer quickly. "Found Georgie. Dead. Something cough. Cough." The youngster coughed up blood. Logan gently grabbed the dagger sticking out of his back. The dagger was deep into the youngster's spine. Logan could feel it. He had enough life experience to tell that this youngster was on the verge of death, and Sue embraced the darkness. Nonetheless, Logan wanted to lessen his suffering as well as get as much information as he could. "Everyone, blood, Dreen cough, cough." Logan and the surrounding people could barely make sense of the mumbling coming out of his mouth. "Cough. Killed. Cough." The youngster began to cough up blood more and more. "It's gonna be all right, Dewey, you're gonna be all right. The healer will fix you right up." Logan smiled at the youngster, trying to make him calm down. He was a big man with a big heart, so he wanted to send the young man as painlessly as possible. "My son." All of a sudden, a woman completely soaked in rainwater rushed into the room. She pushed aside everyone who stood in her way. When she saw Dewey lying on Logan's lap, bleeding and fighting for his life, she collapsed to the ground. For some reason, Logan couldn't look the woman in her eyes. He blamed himself. It felt as if he did something sooner, Dewey wouldn't have been like this. Dewey! The mother shouted. What happened to you? No. Oh my God. Someone help me. Her sickening cry echoed through the hall. He said they found Georgie. Another woman screamed from the crowd. Yes. New_chap_ters are pub_lished on L World. We have to do something and do something now. Yes. The crowd began to roar. Logan, however, didn't hear anything but the cries of a mother who was going to lose her son soon. He couldn't even imagine what she was going through. If he was to lose his wife Tessa, he would break into a million pieces. She was the only thing that kept him together and gave him a new life after the traumatic events he experienced on the Undead Island. Every day he had nightmares. It took everything in him to fight through the nightmares and overcome the traumatic experiences. He promised himself that he would leave the mercenary life behind. However, seeing Dewey's mother, Logan decided to take on a task one last time. Gary, put together a team. I'm going to find Georgie and everyone. Logan stood up with a resolution in his eyes to find the disappeared villagers. Until now, 20 people in the village had mysteriously disappeared, including 3 children and 2 young girls. At first, they thought they left the village. Then, they thought those villagers were lost in the forest. Only when the team sent into the forest disappeared too, did they realize that something was wrong. Of course, if Logan didn't leave for Geisel to get some financial help from the Senate, he would have sent for a search party sooner. It took the temporary village leader 2 weeks to realize those people were actually missing. Logan left the hall and entered his room where he saw his wife peacefully sleeping on the bed. Her pail was illuminated in the candlelight on the stool beside the bed. Other than the bed and his wife, there was only an oak wardrobe and several roses in mud pots. He walked toward his wife. When he reached her bed, he moved aside her red hair and gently kissed her on the forehead. Sleep well, Tessa. I will come back to you as soon as possible. It's time I find these people. She slowly opened her eyes. Her eyes were tired as her skin was so pale. Looking at Logan, Tessa blacked, but her eye movement seemed restricted. I will take care of myself, Tess. Don't worry. Logan closed her eyes gently before placing another kiss on her forehead. Turning back, he walked towards the wardrobe. Not to wear any new clothes, but to take something he shouldn't. He was welcomed by several brown robes and skits neatly stacked as he opened the wardrobe. He opened one of the drawers where there was another set of brown robes. He lifted the stacked robes to see the empty bottom. Only he knew that it was a false bottom and lifted up the false bottom, revealing a black card and a spider-shaped pendant lying there. Am I going to regret this? He asked himself, thinking about what he was going to do. Logan is one of the team member who went with Ross to the Undead Island. Refer chapter 237 if you don't remember him. ***. This _ content is taken from L World. COM. Chapter 471 Mysterious Cannibal. For a few moments, Logan just stared at the card and the spider pendant on the bottom of the drawer. He had no idea what the card and the pendant would do. He was left with this card and the spider pendant when he woke up in a dark alley of Krilta City. His instincts told him to take these items with him. He could feel in his guts that he needed these. Yet the memoirs they stirred in his mind prevented Logan from touching the card and the pendant. I hope not to see you again, David, Logan mumbled. Or whatever your name is. Logan closed the drawer and left the room. As he walked out of the room, he saw the villagers with various makeshift weapons in their hands. Man, woman, child, every single one had some kind of weapon. The old man with a long white beard approached Logan, scratching the back of his head. Sorry, Logan. They are all pretty adamant about following you. They all want to find what's going on here. Seeing the villagers with weapons reminded him of Ross' team. Although Logan worked with many mercenaries and saw many of them die in front of his eyes, what happened on the Undead Island stalks him to this day. He felt so insignificant and powerless in front of David, an entity who could use magic inside the void line. Ross and the team were the best of the best, yet they were no match for David. He killed them in a matter of seconds. If he had wanted, he could have killed Loga. For some reason, David left him alive with the card and the pendant. I can't take all of you with me, Logan sighed. We are ending this, Logan. Yes. I am sick of this. Let's go. The villagers violently shouted. After being worried and scared, the villagers now became pissed. They decided to deal with whoever was killing and kidnapping their neighbors and friends. It's risky and dangerous. Updated _ Elworld. Omino. All the villagers shouted in unison to interject Logan. He was a good leader and the villagers respected him. That was why they were following him. However, they couldn't stand behind Not anymore. Every single one wanted to go out and find the person who was responsible for the kidnappings. Looking at the resolution in their eyes, Logan realized there was no use arguing with them. Jerry, stay here and look after Tess, Logan whispered to the old man standing behind him. The old man knew how much Logan loved his wife Tessa. It was a pity that Tessa fell sick and became paralyzed. The village healers told Logan that it was one in a million illnesses that can't be cured by anything. Many advised Logan to marry another one and have children only to get outright rejected by him. Regardless of her state, Logan loved her as he always did. Of course, everyone wait outside. I'll be with you in a minute. After the villagers left the hall, Logan looked at the old man with a worried look on his face. The fearless leader wall he erupted in front of him crumbled down, revealing the vulnerable side of Logan. Follow me. The old man followed Logan into his bedroom and saw Tessa sleeping peacefully, or at least, the old man thought she was sleeping peacefully. The old man saw Logan open up the wardrobe and soon, he took out a black card and a pendant. If I don't come back, bring this to a man named H in Krilta and ask for David. Logan himself did not clearly understand the reasoning behind his order. I have this sick feeling in my guts about this, Jerry. It's like something evil is hovering over us. Logan lowered his voice and said to the old man. Surprisingly, the old man nodded. Me too, Logan. Do as I said. Sometimes we need one evil to defeat another. The old man didn't comprehend the meaning behind his words. Logan turned his gaze towards his wife once again. Take care of her. Logan's voice stuttered as the old man patted him on the shoulder. Visit to Elworld. Discover _ new novels. You should go. The villagers are waiting. Logan nodded back. Leaving the hall, he only carried his warhammer on his back. He didn't even wear armor because armor would restrict his movements, thus reducing the power of his attacks. The heavy rain was pouring down from heaven as everyone was soaked wet. Nevertheless, the villages gave no crap about the rain. They were too tired of this. At this moment, they only wanted to find the criminal and stop living in fear. Leave the children at home. Logan couldn't bring himself to lead a bunch of children into a place that might be a death trap. Most of the children among the villagers were between 12 to 15 years old. They wanted to fight, but Logan had no intention to bring them with him. The villagers took a few minutes to think about it and decided to leave the children behind. Of course, the hot-blooded kids refused and tried their best to accompany them to the forest, but no avail. Everything said and done, the villagers led by Logan made their way towards the forest. The village's hunter, Mort, followed the blood trail left by Dewey. Because of the heavy rain, the tracks were nowhere to be seen except for Mort, who was an expert tracker. With his help, they were able to follow the trail. The downpour was so heavy that to be caught unawares meant being drenched to the skin. Each drop was as large as a cartoon tear, and they fell like gravity had been turned up a notch. The flashes of lightning were their only light source that lit the path before him and enabled Mort to locate the blood trail. Following the trail with great difficulty, they entered the forest far away from their village. Usually, the hunters would go into the forest to hunt for meat and pick up herbs for healers. The forest was huge, dense, and diverse. Its canopy was demanded by juniper, birch, and cottonwood, which provided just enough openings for light to pass down for a variety of ferns to flourish in the fertile soils below. Coiling branches held onto the occasional tree, and a variety of flowers, which grew dispersed and sparingly, stood out against the otherwise uniform backdrop. At the moment, on top of the twigs breaking sound, a mixture of animal sounds, belonging mostly to prowling animals, reverberated through the air, and were in harmony with the barrage of noise coming from the rain. For Logan, this reminded him of the undead island so much. Cornering all the thoughts about the undead island in his mind, he followed behind Mort. SHR. Jar. Jar. There was barely any light for the villagers to see what was in front of them. It was pitch-black darkness around. Thankfully, there were some fluorescent mushrooms glowed in a vague red color, dimly lighting the surroundings. All of a sudden Logan quickly raised his hand as the villagers halted their steps. Logan shed, telling people wordlessly to shut up. When the villagers stopped moving and whispering to each other, they were able to hear a vague, indescribable sound appearing from a near distance. New novel_chap_ters are published here. L-World. So Logan focused on the sound. The more he heard, the more it sounded like something feasting on something. Logan Mort, the hunter who wore a cloak called Logan silently. It doesn't sound like any animal I know. This might be what's killed Dewey and the men. If it is, we can't let it escape. These people were not strategists or geniuses. So instead of thinking that whatever killed the most trained people in their village might kill them easily, they decided to surround it thinking they have the advantage of numbers. They didn't think that they might be outnumbered or walking into a trap. These villagers were kind of dumb and Logan knew that. Still, he had no choice. Besides, he himself was not a strategist or equipped to deal with powerful entities. The toughest challenge he faced since he became village leader was a 7-foot grizzly bear that terrorized the hunting grounds near the village. Mort, take some of them and try to lay a trap. Whatever it is, I have a bad feeling about this. The villagers moved slowly in the direction of the sound following behind Logan. Another group of villagers followed Mort in another direction to flank whatever was making the sound and trap it. The villagers held the satchels, clubs, and makeshift spears in their hands tight. Their numbers gave them the strength and courage to face whatever was in front of them. However, their courage and strength were shattered when they saw a cloaked figure feasting on the entrails of a body. The cloaked figure emanated some kind of red mist that lit up the surroundings, and in that light, the villagers saw the dead bodies lying around. The cloaked figure slowly stood up. Its movements almost looked as though it was floating in the air. As soon as it stood up, the villagers felt a chill. This male before them had snake eyes that were shined like rubies. His thick, straight, white hair was medium length and floating out from the cloak covering his head. In the glimmer of light produced by the red mist around him, they saw his chalk-white skin, a skeletally thin body, and long, thin hands with unnaturally long fingers. So much blood, so little time, the cloaked figure spoke in a clear, cold, and high-pitched voice. What are you? Logan was the first to question the frightening monster before them since Logan had the experience of meeting another terrifying person. A cattle shouldn't ask questions. The cloaked figure let out a menacing peal of laughter. How is that young brat? I never thought he would bring his whole village for me to feast on. The villagers shuddered after hearing the cloaked figure. I assume you want to fight, although I'd recommend you not to resist. It will only make your death more painful, as he said. The figure removed his cloak, revealing his skull-like face and the two long canines that grew longer visible to the naked eyes when he grinned. Whoosh! In a blink of an eye, the cloaked figure turned himself into a mist of red. He disappeared from their sight, but they soon saw him, biting a young man's throat. Ah! The villagers screamed as the figure sucked on the young man. In utter fear of what they had just seen, the villagers were stunned. While they were standing still, shivering, the man drained the blood. Just like that, the youngster collapsed to the ground, but none of the villagers could recognize him anymore. He was mummified. New_chap_ters are pub_lished on L-World. See Youngblood. So refreshing. The man licked the blood dripping down his lips. Let the feast begin. Chapter 472 Greater Vampire. Seeing the young man's mummified body collapsing onto the ground, the villagers were horrified. Their courage was diminishing faster than words written in the water. He is using magic, the villagers shuddered. The grin on the man's face pushed the villagers to take several steps back. Despite their numbers and the weapons in their hands, they were not shuddering in fear. Everyone, stand your ground. Noticing the villagers were on the verge of panicking, he ordered them to stay put, although he himself was feeling the dread in his heart. Logan witnessed what a man with magic could do to highly trained soldiers. Ross and his team didn't stand a chance in front of David, a magic user, let alone these villagers. The most dangerous threat most of these villagers faced was farm rats. You can also use magic. Logan tried to establish a conversation with the man so he could formulate an escape plan. Logan realized that lives are going to be lost. Still, Logan wanted to minimize the casualties as much as he could. After hearing Logan, the grin on the man's turned colder. You think I'm stupid? No one can use magic. The man had a power that enabled him to detect lies using the heartbeat. He sensed no bluff but truth. It's no bluff. Just like you, he also used magic. Logan planned to draw all his attention toward him. This might let most of the villagers escape the area while he fights the man. He still had no idea how powerful the man was. In the best-case scenario, he would be able to fight the man for a few minutes. In the worst-case scenario, the man instantly kills him and slaughters all the villagers. Why didn't he consume you? The man was curious. As far as he knew, only his kind would be able to use arch energy inside the void line. However, his kind would leave no witnesses alive. That's how they stayed hidden for centuries. If what Logan said was true, which seemed to be the case according to his heartbeat, the magic user let him live. That didn't seem like a man of his kind would do. Logan felt sick just by the fact this man ate those men. He cannibalized them, and it was horrifying. Logan thought David was terrifying, but compared to this man-eater, he seemed normal and pleasant. By consume, if you meant eating them, he didn't. The man was shocked yet again. His kind would always consume their victims. Consuming blood and flesh was their lifeline. Without that, they would cease to exist. Instead, he offered us a chance to serve him. Logan could see the dark lines on the man's forehead getting darker and darker. He will consider a wage of war if you kill us or harm us in any way than you've already done. The man immediately snapped as he sensed Logan's lie. Lie! The man dashed at Logan like a panther. Ding! The man underestimated Logan's reflex. Logan's warhammer met the man's fingers, which now had grown into long, sharp claws. Not bad, the man menacingly laughed as he jumped back a few meters. For a dead man, he said, dashing at Logan once again. This time, his speed multiplied by several folds. Logan was barely able to see him. Full_out current_novel on L-World. Com ding. Logan's instincts made him raise his warhammer to defend himself. Arg! Logan growled when the man's claws scratched his bare chest. The villagers who saw their beloved leader bleed for them kindled the flame of courage in their hearts. At least in most of their hearts. A few of the farmers jumped at the man. Whoosh! 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 The villagers who tried to attack the man suddenly halted their movement. No one could notice the red lines appearing around their necks. Soon, their heads separated themselves from their neck and hit the ground with a sickening thud sound. Before the other villagers could react by screaming, the man dashed at the three headless bodies and sunk his teeth into one of the bodies of a male villager. In a couple of seconds, the body withered, completely drained of blood. Just like the youngster the man killed a few minutes before. He didn't stop with that as he grabbed the other body, sunk his teeth into the neck, and drank all the blood. He was about to consume the third villager. Logan dashed at the man with his warhammer rose up. Boom! The warhammer missed the target as the man evaded it. The ground shook a bit due to the force behind the swing, created a tiny crater in the ground. The man was surprised by Logan's raw strength. The shock wave created by the warhammer knocked down a few of the villagers. Logan quickly balanced himself to face the man before he could kill any more of them. Run! Logan shouted as he dashed at the man. Logan swung the warhammer so effortlessly as though it was weightless. For a human, Logan was strong and fast. He kept swinging the warhammer to stop the man from killing any more villagers. Silly little cow, the man snickered. The man saw Logan keep swinging the warhammer chaotically. Logan's movements were getting slower and slower. The man's grin grew wider and wider. He put one hand behind and deflected Logan's attack with the other. The man seemed pretty relaxed and toyed with Logan. Boom! Arg! You can find the rest of this content on the L-World. Com platform. This time, the man shouted while flung into the tree several meters behind him. Logan pretended to get tired and lose his touch. Luckily, the man fell for that trick. When he dropped his defense and acted cocky, Logan utilized that moment to send his warhammer straight into the man's ribcage. Logan felt a couple of ribs being crushed by his warhammer. "Run away!" Logan once again shouted at the villagers. Blood wave. As soon as Logan heard these words, a wave of hot blood blasted him and the villagers away. The blood disappeared from existence as soon as it appeared. Whoosh! 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 Logan felt a wave brush past his face. His instinct automatically turned his head towards the villagers. Bastard! Logan burned in rage when he saw the man cleaving several heads off. He sucked their blood so fast that he mummified 10 villagers within a minute. The more blood he sucked, the bigger he grew, the less he looked humane. The chalk-white skin gradually lost its whiteness and turned muddy brown. Then the red mist shrouding him faded into nothingness. They were all pretty obvious changes, but not as the extra 3 arms grew out of his back. Using his 5 arms together, he ripped off the cloak he was wearing to reveal the skinless, bloody body hiding beneath the cloth. Logan felt nauseated just by looking at this horrifying monstrosity. "I'm gonna feast on all of you," the man spoke in a chilling, demonic voice. Inch by inch, he stepped closer to the villagers. "Fight! Run!" One group of villagers swallowed their fear and tried to fight while the other tried to escape into the woods. Logan picked himself up to fight the monstrosity even though he knew that the chances of them surviving this had grown slimmer. Pulch! Georgich! The man halted his move as blood began to seep out of his mouth. Everyone, including Logan, was stunned. They then noticed pointy steel coming out of the monster's chest. Mort! Logan saw Mort, the hunter standing behind the creature, drilling the steel, spearing into him. Mort retrieved the spear out only to stab the monster again and again. After being stabbed through the chest several times, the monster finally drew his last breath. Collapsed onto the group. Visit to Elworld. Discover_new novels. It's dead. Oh God. Is it really dead? Mort! The villagers were stupefied, looking at the dead monster in front of them. Some of the daredevil villagers approached the body, kicking it to see if it was alive or dead. Seeing the body did not respond, they thought it was dead and dropped their guard. Logan picked himself up with the support of his warhammer. The fluorescent mushrooms around them illuminated the fear on Mort's face, but more than fear, there was pride. "This is gonna stir up so much shit." Mort moved away from the body and walked towards Logan. And just as the crowd was surrounding the body and Mort was several steps away from Logan, Mort's head exploded into red mist. "You should have gone for the head," the demonic voice sounded. Soon, the monster they all thought was dead stood up. Blood mist, all the villagers were shrouded by the red mist that appeared out from the monster. "Arg! Grgh ag hi!" Countless screams emerged from the red mist. Somehow, Logan was able to vaguely see the monster's rampage. Thus, he leaped at the monster to stop its monstrosity. This time, Logan really swung his warhammer chaotically in the hope of hitting him one more time. "You are last." Logan heard the man's voice sound in his mind. It was more of a feeling than hearing. Logan tried to prevent the monster from killing all the villagers, yet his muscles refused to move. After savoring them, "I will travel to the village and consume your beloved wife." Logan's heart almost jumped out of his chest when he heard these words in his mind. "No!" Logan screamed in his mind as the images of his wife and the loving memories he shared with her flashed across his mind. He felt desperate, trying to move his body using all the strength in him. Still, his body wouldn't budge. The red mist soon died down, revealing the mummified bodies of the villagers. The monster had now grown to almost 12 feet tall. The air turned putrid, reeking of rotten eggs and blood. His human features were nowhere to be found, and now, he was a pure monster, pure horrific monster. Tears rolled out of Logan's eyes. He wanted to scream, curse, and yell at the monster. He would have, but no matter how tired he was, he couldn't. His mouth was shut closed and refused to move. "How stupid you're imbeciles to think you can defeat a greater vampire." Visit Elworld. com for a better user experience. Chapter 473. Not a subordinate material. The greater vampire hovered towards Logan with a clear intent to murder Logan. The only thing that prevented the greater vampire from doing so was the information Logan possessed about another magic user. If he was to bring Logan to his coven, he might leverage it to get back his cover. Tell me who he is, the greater vampire threatened Logan. He lifted Logan by his neck so effortlessly. A tentacle-like tongue reached out to lick Logan's face. Logan felt disgusted and sick. More than anything, Logan was worried about his wife. Half of his village was gone, and he hoped those who chose to run would escape and tell the Senate what happened. You think this world doesn't need saving? Open your eyes, one day you'll realize that the good guys aren't enough to save the world. Logan's mind played the words spoken by David when they were inside the pyramid. He couldn't help regretting his decision not to join him. If he had, the villagers might have been alive. I shall ask your beloved wife then, the greater vampire grinned devilishly. His words fanned the flames of Logan's anger. He grabbed the greater vampire's arm and neck. Arrgh, Logan growled as every bit of muscle in his body bulged out. The veins were popping out and trying to remove the greater vampire's arm from his neck. The greater vampire was far stronger than Logan, yet the vampire was surprised by Logan's power. Logan almost moved the vampire's arm. Just as Logan was struggling, the vampire's pointy ear twitched. Logan couldn't hear a grumbling sound amidst the heavy rain and thunderstorms. Boom! Out of nowhere, a bright beam shot out from the sky. The greater vampire screamed out loud as he let go of Logan. Arg, cough, cough. Logan coughed and looked up at the vampire to see him literally smoking. Hhhhhhhhhh. The vampire cried in agony, standing in the center of the light beam. Logan followed the beam's direction, only to see a giant airship hovering over them. No! The vampire's body shrunk to its previous size. The longer he stood in the light, the more smoke he radiated. Logan tried to grab his warhammer so he could kill the vampire while it was vulnerable. However, the vampire noticed his hands moving towards the hammer. New novel _chap_ters are published here. Elworld. Rrgh, the vampire roared. This time, it wasn't the cry of agony, but rather the cry of mustering all the strength in its body. Then, with all his strength, he jumped out of the spotlight into the darkness. This isn't over. These were the last words Logan heard from the monster before it disappeared into the darkness. Take the ropes, a voice sounded from the airship, followed by the appearance of ropes. Instead of grabbing the ropes, Logan crawled to the dead bodies of his fellow villagers. Tears automatically rolled out of his eyes. The pain he felt in his heart looking at the headless mummified bodies made his heart bleed. He wished things had gone differently. In truth, he never thought he would face another magic user. He thought it was a group of bandits or some criminals who were kidnapping and killing people. He thought he could take on them with the help of his villagers. Not in a million years, he expected to meet a monstrosity called a greater vampire. Buddy, take the ropes before that thing comes back to finish what it started. Another less serious voice talked to him. Finally, after letting out a heavy sigh, Logan grabbed the rope hanging in front of him. He grabbed it as the ropes lifted him towards the airship. The bottom of the airship slowly opened, letting Logan into the airship. Logan, when he entered the airship before he could even look around, he heard a familiar voice. The old man Gary came running to him. Gary, Logan was relieved to see the old man. What happened, Logan? The old man asked, even though he looked like he guessed what happened. Where is Tess? She is here, Logan sighed. Where are we? Several seconds later, Logan asked the old man, looking around him. He was standing in an empty room with no windows. There was a door a couple of meters in front of him where the old man came through. He walked towards the door. As they reached the door, the old man opened it to reveal a grandiloquent, spacious hall. If Logan didn't know he was in an airship, he would have thought this was a home of a wealthy noble. New _chap_ters are pub_lished on Elworld. However, Logan was not in the mood to immerse himself in the richness around him. Rather, he focused his gaze on the man and woman sitting on the sofa. They were none other than Tiberius and Maxine. You must be Logan, Please take a seat. Logan noticed the dark-haired woman gesturing at him to sit in front of her. He had so many questions in his mind, but looking at the dark robes she was wearing reminded him of a familiar person. Logan wanted answers, and he saw no other choice than talking to them. The old man and Logan approached the two of them cautiously. The old man seemed relaxed around them because he knew who they were, unlike Logan. He heard about Tiberius but hadn't seen him in person. "We are terribly sorry about what happened to your village," Maxine consoled Logan as they were taking their seats before them. "I am Maxine and this is Tiberius." The moment he heard the name Tiberius, Logan was taken aback by surprise. He was the king of the newly found city called Freedom City. Until the crowning ceremony, they were calling it a city instead of a kingdom. "We can't revive all those you lost, but we can find and kill that thing that did it," said Tiberius. As a warrior, Tiberius connected with Logan and understood what he was going through. It was a real pity that he couldn't save the villagers sooner. "Where is Tess?" Before anything, Logan wanted to make sure his wife was fine. Clap. Maxine simply clapped as a maid entered the hall pushing a wheelchair with Tessa on it. Logan immediately ran to his wife. "Tess, baby." He knelt before her, gently cupping her face. He couldn't hold back the tears gushing out of his eyes. "Don't cry." Logan's muscles went rigid when he heard his wife's sweet melodious voice after 6 months. A shaky smile built up on his face as the surprise sunk in. "Tess, courtesy of Lord Lucifer." Logan heard Maxine. He quickly turned back, feeling a hope of healing his wife in his heart. "Lord Lucifer said you know him as David." Logan wanted to say he was surprised, but he kinda expected it after seeing the black robes she was wearing. "David," he mumbled under his breath. "We call him Lord Lucifer. The most up-to-date evangelicals are published as Elworld." "Com," Maxine said with a smile, but for Logan, it sounded like an order. "D Lord Lucifer, can he cure my wife?" That was the first thing that came to Logan's mind. According to the healers, there was no cure for his wife. To be honest, Logan always wondered whether he should try to contact David or not by some means ever since his wife fell sick. In his mind, David was evil. He mercilessly killed Ross and his team even though he could have let them live. Compared to the greater vampire, David was a saint. "Why don't you ask him yourself?" Maxine flicked her wrist as a giant mirror appeared before them. Soon, David appeared in the mirror. Since he must not let anyone see his real face, which was Ghost, he changed his face to David face using the mask. He had never let anyone in the southern continent see his real face, including Maxine. Except for Azazel, no one knew Ghost and Lucifer were the same person. "Do you think I am evil now, Logan?" Michael asked, void of any expression on his face. "That's a greater vampire you saw, Logan. What happened to your village was a pity. But soon, that would happen to every village in the southern continent." To this moment, Michael was in a kind of surprised state because of the vampires. "I'd recommend you to send the survivors to Freedom City. However, that decision is up to you now. I wish all the best in your journey, Logan." Everyone in the room was surprised. Logan expected David to ask him to serve him or something. Lord Lucifer. Logan immediately went to his knees. "Please accept my loyalty." Michael smiled as he shook his head. "You've not the man I met, Logan. You've gone soft. I don't blame you. You have a wife, and you love your peaceful life. The fire I want in my subordinates is no longer within you." Logan tried to interject but was stopped by the wave of Michael's hand. "Even now, you want to serve me because you expect me to heal your wife," Michael said and turned his gaze to Maxine. "Give her the special healing potion?" "Yes, my lord." Maxine nodded before flicking her wrist. A glistening navy blue potion materialized in her hand. It was not the 90% pure healing potion Michael gave to all his trusted subordinates. "Mix 2 drops in water and give it to her. In 6 months, she will be completely cured. Take this as my gift to you, Logan." After seeing the decisions Logan made and the way he loved his wife, Michael decided not to take Logan as his subordinate. Michael expected his subordinates to perform some ruthless tasks for him. Logan, however, no longer had that ruthlessness in him. Michael was able to see that. Full_out current_novel on Elworld. He was too attached to his wife. In the future, if Guardians or the Skyhall used Tessa as a hostage, Logan would spill the beans in a second. Logan wasn't worth the trouble of making him and his wife Tessa a cultivator. At least Logan served him one last time, luring the vampire and proving to Michael the existence of vampires. Because of the soft part in his heart, he decided to heal Tessa and send Logan off with the final gift. It was a pity that Logan has gone soft. In case he hadn't found Tiberius, Michael might have made Logan his subordinate. Since it wasn't the case, Logan had no place in his army as Tiberius was better than Logan in every aspect. Importantly, Tiberius was ruthless and had no love interest. Chapter 474 The Deathless Clan. Somewhere in the southern continent, a spooky castle was located hidden from civilization. 7 skinny, square towers surrounded the castle in almost a perfect circle around this incredible castle, and were connected by fortified, thick walls made of dark gray stone. Wide windows were scattered generously around the walls in seemingly perfect symmetry, along with symmetric crenellations for archers and artillery. A giant gate with tall stone doors, a regular bridge, and strong defenses guarded the entrance to the castle ground. It was the only easy way in. Any other side would be futile. Giant bones of various beasts littered the fields outside the castle, half overgrown, but still a painful reminder of the past. Unknown to the world, this castle had stood the test of time. It stood it well, but cracks began to show here and there. The castle was located on the edge of the southern continent. This land was uncharted. To speak frankly, no one survived trying to chart this part of the land by one group, the Deathless. The next day after the events of the Rackdale Village massacre, inside a dark, gloomy hall, several figures dressed in Gothic style sat around a round table. Each of them looked like they were going trick or treat for Halloween. The 3 men at the table wore long black suits with antique buttons and red vests, while the 2 ladies were in fancy black skirts, red tops with bell sleeves, and a black hat. Underneath their dress and makeup, they all had chalk-white skin, blood-red lips, and 2 long fangs. "We should have killed him," Hakan said. Hakan was a conniving vampire who looked like a man in his mid-30s, but he recently turned 600 years old. He had dark brown eyes, a fair complexion due to the makeup he wore, and dark brown hair neatly braided. He was the shortest and plumpy among the vampires sitting at the table. "Relax, Hakan, let's hear what he has to say first. Then we can pass judgment," a youthful voice responded to Hakan. This young, outgoing vampire was named Saber. Despite his youthful look, his real age was 485 years ago. He had blue eyes, a medium brown complexion, and light brown hair in an updo. He was neither too handsome nor too unattractive. He had a face and body that let him perfectly blend in with the crowd unnoticed. The oldest of them listened to the 2 uttering no words. He recently turned 1,050 years but looked like he was still in his mid-30s. He had silvery blue eyes, a pale complexion, and red hair in a long braid. He was tall and fairly muscular beneath his dark suit and red vest. The other vampires knew him by the name Ingram among the 2 female vampires who wore identical clothes. One looked a bit plump while the other had a perfect hourglass structure. The plump one had red hair while the other had striking black hair. The red-haired vampire went by the name Lenora and the brunette was called Trista. In the hierarchy of vampires, these 5 belonged to the category of elder vampires. Of course, there were other elder vampires, but these 5 were the ones present in the room. Each of these elder vampires served an alpha, and these alphas served the most powerful vampire of them all, the Maker. The Maker was said to be the first vampire. According to the ancient texts possessed by the Deathless clan, the Maker disappeared 6,000 years ago. They believed that the Maker had entered into an eternal slumber, and it was their task to locate him and wake him from his slumber. The Deathless clan was working in the shadows for thousands of years with a single purpose: find the Maker. Visit Elworld. COM for a better user experience. He has waited long enough. Let's call him Lenora, the red-haired vampire said in a carefree, playful tone. Yeah, let's get this over with, Trista waved her hand. Moments later, the 2 elder vampires spoke. The round table opened in the middle as a tall figure emerged from the ground. A red spotlight on the figure revealed his face, and if Logan was there, he would recognize the man. He was the greater vampire who massacred his village single-handedly. Elders, the greater vampire bowed at each elder vampire. Do you admit the consequences of your bloodlust, Vlad? Saber asked. You have endangered our secrecy, Vlad. You didn't only let the bodies behind but also left witnesses alive, Lenora said seriously. The others remained in silence, letting Vlad speak for himself. I am willing to pay any price for my mistakes. Elders, I only wish to share the knowledge I acquired during my last venture. Vlad paused for a moment to look at everyone before continuing. There is another one in Southern Continent who can use arch energy, and I don't think he's one of us. You jest? Hacken growled at Vlad. He couldn't remain silent after hearing Vlad's outlandish claims. He was about to slam the stone table when Saber raised his hand. Where did you learn this information? All the vampires possessed the ability to detect lies, and they saw no signs of Vlad. Nonetheless, only Saber seemed to trust Vlad for some reason. From a human in Rackdale village on the outskirts of Giselle. He told me that the man offered to join him. The human lied that he joined. The magic user has left the human alive, and when I was about to kill him, I was ambushed by an airship fitted with a light beam spotlight. I believe the magic user sent the airship to aid the human. So it's true. Saber's words shocked everyone more than Vlad did. Saber, what the hell are you talking about? He was deceived. No one other than us can use arch energy inside the void line. Han couldn't believe what Vlad just said. You can't deny the possibility that he might be a rogue vampire exiled by us, Lenora said as Saber shook his head. I've been hearing things from my men. Recently, the pirates started to talk about a captain who casts spells and uses magic. We can all agree that pirates are not a very reliable source of information. Try the L World. COM platform _ for the most advanced _ reading experience. No shit, Hacken sneered. 2 bottles of rum and they sing songs about Kraken. Forget about us. If there is someone who could use arch energy inside Void Line, all the great clans would have hunted him down. Saber smiled hearing Hacken. You answered your own question, Hacken. No one believes the pirates. Pirates lie, but he didn't. Saber pointed at Vlad. I also happen to have on good authority the Guardians suspect the one Vlad told us about, and the one who calls himself Lucifer might be the same person. Saber's lips curved upwards, revealing a slight grin that seemed like the devil of a grin. He may have looked normal, calm, and harmless among the 6, but in truth, he was the cruelest and most dangerous of them all. Lenora giggled. Does this authority happen to be a certain Guardian? Why do I have a feeling you tasted my food? Saber asked with a smile at Lenora. Because I did. Lenora licked her lips. I have to say, Saber, when you turned a cultivator into us, I had my doubts. But after tasting her, it's worth all the trouble. I'm thinking about getting cultivator minion myself. Seeing the conversation straying away from the right track, Trista clapped her hands. What should we do with him? Trista asked, pointing at Vlad. What else? The smile on Saber's face faded away. Kill him? Saber said, snapping his finger as Vlad exploded into a bloody mist. What the fuck, Saber? Hacken growled. You ruined my clothes. How about I treat you to a special meal? Leaving the bloody mess of Vlad behind, Saber took Hacken to his special lair underground where he kept a special blood meal. For more _novel, visit Elworld. Meanwhile, in the Aquilan realm, Michael was standing in the middle of the Black Forest with Gaia and Eladir. They had a boar in a steel cage in front of them on the ground. Can you at least give us a clue? Gaia leaned on Michael, trying to seduce him to spill the beans. With a proud smile on his face, Michael took out a muddy brown potion in his hand. The potion was glistening brightly inside the vial. The boar was in a paralyzed state, so it didn't even budge when Michael bent down to pour the potion into its mouth. Little by little, the poutine went into its mouth. Gaia stared at the boar, expecting something, although she had no idea what to expect. Even Eladir was curious about the potion because Lucifer was working on the potion for almost 6 months non-stop. After finishing pouring the potion into its mouth, Michael kicked the steel several meters away from him. When the steel cage hit the ground, the steel cage opened. At that same time, the paralyzing poison Michael injected into the boar wore off. Thus, the boar leaped out of the cage. As though it remembers who caged it, the boar locked its gaze with Gaia. The boar then went to dig the ground a bit with its legs as a sign of aggression. Gaia even saw puffs of smoke rushing out of its nostrils. So your motherfucking potion makes the boar angrier? Gaia rolled her eyes. She then took out the heavy sword hanging on her back. But Michael, wait for it. Michael lowered her hands. The boar began to run towards them. It was royally pissed because of what Gaia did. The boar was having the time of his life with a female boar when she plucked him up and put him into a cage. Wait for it. The boar was getting closer and closer, yet Michael did not allow her to attack it. Just when the boar was a couple of meters away from them, Michael snapped his finger. As soon as he did that, the boar exploded from within into a bloody mist. What the? Gaia was stunned. She saw no spellcasting or use of arch energy from him. Yet the boar exploded. Michael took out another muddy brown potion from his system storage. Imagine mixing this in the food of our enemies. I can kill them any time, any moment, with just a snap of my fingers. Michael felt the urge to let out a burst of evil laughter, but he controlled himself. This potion was one of the greatest achievements of his life. He created an entirely new potion that even the system had no knowledge of. No matter how many 6-star alchemists tried to replicate this potion, they wouldn't succeed, because the potion contained something this world didn't have. Nanites. Updated _ at Lworld. COM. Only one thing left. Naming this potion. Why don't you guys suggest me a cool name for this potion? Chapter 475. Leaving Mazeroth, another 3 weeks flew by in a flash in Ukulun Realm. Everyone in Mazeroth was as busy as bees due to the upcoming talent exhibitions. Every single student was under so much pressure except Michael. He was chilling by the lake with Nightmare. He even bought a black aviator from the system store and wore it while sunbathing. On top of it, he also bought one for Nightmare. The little dragon looked so cute wearing sunglasses. 66, a youngster in green robes, approached Michael. Beat it 50. I'm not gonna do anything today. Michael chased away the youngster who was about to ask some doubt related to alchemy. They continued to bask in the warmth of the morning sun and enjoyed the lake view. Since they had no classes to attend, Michael and Nightmare decided not to do anything academics related. While relishing their free time, Michael took a sip of freshly brewed coffee through the straw. He was receiving badass points just by chilling. So have you decided what to show in the talent exhibition? Nightmare asked, looking at the crystal clear sky. Yeah. What is it? You're gonna blow everyone out of the water, aren't you? No, Michael's answer surprised Nightmare. The dragon turned his head to look at the relaxed face of Michael. You always show off, frowned Nightmare. Not this time. I'm gonna put together a potion that would make people float. Cool. Nightmare lowered the sunglasses for a moment before raising them up. Nightmare realized the reason for his lack of commitment to creating a new potion for the talent exhibition. 99% of the students were working their assess off to impress Sky Hall representatives and getting assigned to any of the Sky Hall organizations. That leftover 1% was students who had no desire to join Sky Hall, such as Michael, Victoria, and Edith. Speaking of Victoria, she was looking at Michael and Nightmare from a distance. What's he doing? And where did he find those black glasses? Edith asked. She couldn't help giggling at Nightmare. He was too cute. What does it look like? He's taking a rest, Victoria said, showing no emotion. Her emotionless face quickly showed some expression as she creased her brows. She noticed Diego, who got his ass kicked by Ghost, approaching him with a couple of his lackeys. You? Diego growled as Michael lowered his glasses. I want a rematch. Diego growled again. Fuck off. Michael did not even consider Diego's request for a rematch. For more Carnival, visit Lworld. Calm. Unexpectedly, Diego didn't lose his calm. He remained, uttering no cuss words. This time, rematch, no restrictions. Are you man enough to accept my challenge? Diego pointed his finger at Michael and challenged him. Now you're being cliché. Go away. It's my rest day. Michael was too lazy to even look at Diego. He will accept it. All of a sudden, Michael heard the cold waspish voice sound in his ears. Professor Lane. Diego and his lackeys quickly straightened their bodies. As Professor Lane landed on the grass field beside Nightmare, Michael and the little dragon removed their glasses and stood up. Since you have so much free time, I will allow this duel to happen. Professor Lane gave both Michael and Nightmare a death stare. However, that gaze was way better than what he gave to Diego and his lackeys. Monkeys have bigger brains and fashion sense than you buffoons. Before Diego or his lackeys could respond to Lane's comment, he flicked his wrist as a bright light enveloped all of them. The next moment, Michael noticed he was standing in the middle of the arena. The students need a distraction, Professor Lane exclaimed. Michael was really pissed off by Lane. He was a soul refining stage level 2 cultivator, whereas Diego was only at the core strengthening stage level 1. He wasn't against kicking Diego's ass, but he was worried about revealing his own cultivation stage to others. It was obvious Professor Lane was upset with Michael because he didn't create a mind-blowing new potion or a pill. A potion that would enable someone to fly was borderline pointless. Still, Michael went with that because he was not stupid enough to give a super powerful potion to Skyhall which could be later used against him. Diego had no idea about the power gap between them. He was still thinking that Michael was in the core formation stage. In his mind, if he could use arch energy, he could defeat him and wash away the shame. What surprised Michael, though Lane too didn't have a clue about his cultivation stage. If he had, he wouldn't have permitted this duel. Professor Lane stood between Diego and Michael until the area got filled with students. A rematch between them was too tempting for the students to ignore. Victoria and Edith came to the arena with the rest of the Warrior House students. It was a sudden battle, but surprisingly the students of each house managed to draw signboards showing their support for each participant. Unlike the first duel they had, this time Michael had way too many supporters from the alchemist's house. 66, 66, 66, 66. The most up-to-date events are published under her L-World. They were cheering for Michael loudly as the scene reminded Michael of the tournament. Let's get this over with. Michael sighed. Unknown to him, a special person came to witness the battle disguised as House Runemaster students. It was none other than Rowena Winston, the Holy Maiden of Skyhall. Just like Michael, she got bored and decided to chill. When she saw the commotion, she decided to come to the arena. You can go chill out, Michael patted Nightmare on the head. The dragon nodded. Then, he snickered at Diego. I hope you have a healing potion with yourself. Diego might seem calm outside, but inside, he was burning with rage. He wanted to rip the wings off that snarky dragon and teach it a lesson. For now, he had to deal with his master. After everything was said and done, Professor Lane simply flicked his hand as a giant chakra flicked in the ground. It will keep you alive. Professor Lane didn't linger around. He took off into the air, leaving Michael and Diego behind. Michael felt nothing, but Diego could feel his arch energy returning to his body. I was waiting for this moment for so long. Diego cracked his knuckles. Michael, on the other hand, just like before, said nothing. He just lowered his sunglass. Begin, Ignitia. Not even a millisecond passed by after Lane uttered the word begin, when a golden bolt of lightning shot out of Michael's finger and penetrated through Diego's throat. Grrrhhhhh. Diego clenched his throat as blood gushed out of the wound. He dropped to his knees, losing all the strength in his body. The chakra beneath him began to glow in green, and soon, a light layered Diego's body. The students were utterly shocked. Many didn't even see what just happened. The duel was finished as soon as it began. All the cheers resounding in the arena stopped abruptly. Michael raised his sunglasses and looked badass doing it. Professor, can I leave now? Michael looked up, asking Professor Lane. For the first time since Michael met him, this was the first time he saw Lane shocked. Professor Lane was unable to answer Michael for a few moments. Not only him, but Rowena was also surprised. So he is the ghost, Rowena said to herself. Ever since Rowena heard Ghost saved her mother, cousin, and Sabrina, she wanted to meet Ghost in person. But due to some reasons, she was unable to do so until now. As the Holy Maiden, she had access to all student records. Thanks to those records, she identified Michael successfully. This underscore content is taken from L-World. Not yet. Professor Lane regained his cold demeanor. He completely ignored Diego as he landed in front of Michael. Here, Michael saw Professor Lane taking out a silver parchment from his space ring with a flick of his wrist. "You're excused from the talent exhibition. You can leave whenever you want and return after the holidays." Everyone, including Michael, was surprised by the sudden gift from Professor Lane. The holidays were supposed to start 3 weeks after the talent exhibition. Michael removed the sunglasses. "Well, thank you, Professor. It's better you don't show yourself in the talent exhibition than underselling yourself there." Michael didn't expect this from Professor Lane. To be honest, Michael was completely caught off guard by him. If he had known beating Diego again would get him an early ticket out of Aquilan, he would have done it sooner. Before Michael could finish his sentence, Professor Lane vanished into thin air. The badass points notifications were going crazy in his mind. In a few minutes, he earned almost 80,000 badass points. He thought the reign of badass points was about to end when he turned back. He was dead wrong. Someone landed beside Diego with a loud thud, shaking the ground beneath. "Halt!" The clear, crisp voice made Michael halt his steps. Without even turning back, Michael knew who was standing behind him by the reactions of the students around him. Just as he guessed, he turned around to see the head prefect Elliot Watson, clad in full silver armor, looking at Michael. The array placed in the arena almost healed Diego back to full health. Not another duel. Michael was annoyed inside. Although fighting them would get him a ton of badass points, he felt bored fighting arrogant young masters. He had better things to do than wasting time on them. He was not Noah to fight every arrogant young master in his way. "Thank you," were the words that came out of Elliot's mouth and completely shocked everyone in the arena. Michael wasn't an exception. Huh. Michael was confused why the heck Elliot thanked him. He was kinda expecting Elliot to challenge him for a duel, so he could avenge his friend. "You've given him a valuable lesson," Elliot nodded. It was a nod that kinda looked like a bow. "Okay," Michael nodded back, hiding the confusion in his heart from showing up on his face. After Elliot thanked Michael, he took Diego and flew into the sky. Michael didn't linger around either. Now that Professor Lane had permitted him to leave the Aquilan realm early, he needed to pack his things, inform Gaia, and leave Mazeroth. The first thing he planned to do after leaving Mazeroth is to find the vampire and get every piece of information he could on the bloodsuckers. The source of this _chapter, L-World. COM. Chapter 476 Reunion with Vidora. Michael was packing up everything when Gaia entered the room, pouting. "You're packing up, I see." She came to his workbench where several apparatuses were fuming up colorful smokes. "I know what you're thinking, and no, you can't come with me until you get the holidays." Gaia sighed instead of arguing with him. She expected this answer, and in fact, she would be more helpful to him in the Aquilan realm than in the outside world. "So you're going to Giselle or the sect?" asked Gaia while dismantling his apparatus setup. "Giselle. I want to find more about the vampires, and I have a feeling the vampires have something to do with Peyton and Sabrina's disappearance." Gaia continued to help him pack all the things. The silver scroll offered to him by Professor Lane enabled him to use arch-energy. Not that he needed a scroll to use arch-energy, now no one would suspect him. The room looked clean and rather empty after he put everything into the system storage. He was too busy cleaning everything up to notice the sad look on Gaia's face. Finally, when he turned around, he saw her standing in the center of the room, sad-faced. He put everything on hold and approached her. "Just 10 more months, Snaky," he said, gently cupping her hand. I know her voice stuttered due to her trying to hide her sadness. How could she hide anything from Michael when he knows her completely? So he just smiled before kissing her right between her eyes. "We are gonna spend eternity together. So don't worry." She couldn't hold back her feelings as he locked her lips with his. Good thing Michael scanned the room and made it spy-proof. Although it said that Mazeroth doesn't spy on students, he didn't believe them. Soon, they stopped kissing to embrace each other. "I'm gonna miss you," she said, hugging him as tight as she could. "Me too." Where's that flying lizard?" Here Gaia shuddered. She quickly let go of Michael, turned around, and saw Nightmare flying before her. "Fuck! Don't sneak up on me, ugly brat." She tried to grab Nightmare, but he evaded her easily. "I didn't sneak up on you. You were just too busy being lovey-dovey. Visit L-World." Calm for a better reading experience. You're gonna pay for that. With her threat began their cat and mouse chase around the room. Considering Michael created his new potion, which he still has to name in this room, he was extremely thorough in cleaning the room. He didn't leave a single speck of evidence that could be traced back to the new potion. Got you? After chasing Nightmare for 5 minutes, she finally caught him. She headlocked Nightmare, knocking him on the head repeatedly. I am so happy we are leaving you behind. Nightmare, Michael called Nightmare as they both looked at him. An evil grin quickly emerged on Gaia's face. Sorry to burst your bubble, but you're not coming. Nightmare was shocked. What the fuck? He growled, still being locked under her arms. I can't take you with me. The scroll was pretty clear about it. Michael took out the silver scroll from his storage and threw it at Gaia. Both the snake and the dragon curiously read the contents written on the silvern parchment. Familiars are not allowed to leave Aquilon realm. Gaia read the line out aloud before closing the scroll. Now that I think about it, Gilrine was talking about some pocket dimension. What pocket dimension? Nightmare growled. He was not at all happy about staying in Mazeroth without Michael. He would have been less pissed about this if he was able to stay with Gaia. Unfortunately, no one was allowed inside staff quarters. Thus, Nightmare had to stay in the room alone or with Eladir, who spent most of his time cultivating, meditating, and reading books in the library. I think they are planning to bring all the familiars into a pocket dimension for training or something. It will be a good experience for you, Nightmare. Michael rubbed Nightmare's head, playfully after coming to him. I think Eladir is in the library. Seeing Eldir hadn't returned to the room, Michael realized he might still be in the library. Here, take these. Gaia saw 2 black rings appear on his palm. Space ring? Gaia tilted her head. Modified interlinked space rings. We can use this across realms, said Michael. These 2 rings cost him 10,000 badass points each in the system store. He wouldn't have bought them if they weren't vital to his plans. Using these rings, even after leaving the Aquilon realm, Michael could provide Gaia and Eladir with necessary items from his side and vice versa. Visit Elworld. COM for a better reading experience. The downside of these rings was he wouldn't be able to store anything weighing more than 50 kilograms in space rings. Because of this restriction, it was borderline impossible to work on devices that required Eladir's runes, for instance, the mortar. Fortunately, by the start of next month, everyone would get holidays and be allowed to leave the Aquilon realm. That time, the 2 of them could finally finish building the mortar and hopefully more powerful devices for Bertha. Give the other to Eladir when you see him. After everything was said and done, Michael was ready to leave the Aquilon realm for Giselle. Aren't you going to meet Lane? Gaia asked. You've seen him. He is not very good at connecting with people. Besides, he's pissed at me for not making a breakthrough in alchemy by creating an entirely new potion or a pill. Less he knows you already created one. Nightmare joined the conversation. And it will stay that way. Michael's voice became serious. I haven't perfected this potion, but even in this imperfect state, this potion is a game changer. They both nodded in agreement. I will see you 2 later. Since there were no obligations left in the Aquilon realm, Michael activated the silver scroll by sending the scroll a silver of arch energy. The next moment, a bright light enveloped him and disappeared in a few seconds along with Michael. Okay, Lizard, I have classes. They'll see you later. Stay out of trouble. Gay rubbed Nightmare on the head with a smile. You too. You're the one who should be careful. She gave a nod before leaving the room through the window. Little did Nightmare know at this time that in the pocket dimension, he would meet 2 other dragons who were going to change his life. Life without Gaia and Ghost was so boring to Vidora, especially to Iag and Sarba. It had been approximately 3 months since Ghost and Gaia left for Mazeroth. The only entertainment they had after coming out of cultivation was the surveillance mirror. The 3 of them watched all the footage live and recorded it to find out more about the vampires. There were barely any drones or spy cams on the southern continent, excluding the homes of senators and Stormville Mountain. Otherwise, they would have tracked the vampire who apparently massacred a village on the outskirts of Giselle. If Azazel let Delar take us to the crime scene, I can try to track the vampire, Sarba meekly said. And I can test my new scorching breath on that bloodsucker? Iag said without bothering to hide her arrogance. Nothing much changed in their behavior or physical bodies in these 3 months except their powers. Ayag now could breathe fire in addition to her ability to shoot sonic waves, and Sarba developed powerful senses. His senses let Sarba locate a living being using the heartbeat from a mile away. That was one of the senses he had. Taste, smell, vision, hearing, every sense known to man was heightened for Sarba. I don't believe our core formation level 5 will be enough to go head-to-head with the vampire. We know nothing about their kind, Kane calmly said, only to get a headbutt from Ayag. Full underscore current on L world. Don't worry, Black. I'm sure you will get a power of your own soon. It's obvious you're a late bloomer. Kane ignored Ayag's mockery and concentrated on the footage before him. Master Kane, Master Sarba, Miss Ayag, it's bedtime. The three of them saw Azazel's ethereal form materialize before them. We don't need sleep, demon, move away, you're blocking our view. Ayag growled at Azazel, but he handled her with a gentle smile on his face. Your bodies need rest, Miss Ayag. Besides, you can miss something so obvious when your mind is exhausted. He is right, Sarba was the good boy among the three. So he agreed with Azazel, which earned him a headbutt from the rebel child Ayag. Let's go, Sarba. Kane moved his head towards the door to leave the room. Since 2 out of 3 agreed upon sleeping, Ayag had no choice but to go with them despite how she felt. However, just as they were about to flap their tiny wings, Azazel's eyes opened wide. Soon an elated smile emerged on his face. The 3 of them were completely taken aback by his surprise. He is here, Sarba joyfully said as he sensed a powerful figure walking toward them, and he had no doubt that this powerful radiation belonged to none other than Ghost. Just as he said, the door opened to reveal Michael in his usual black attire. Ghost! Even the normally silent Kane grinned and leaped at Ghost excitedly. They were so surprised and happy to see him again. They wrapped their heads around his neck, showering him with kisses as though they were puppies. My lord, Azazel quickly went to his knees as his eyes were brimming with the joy of seeing his lord return. Nightmare and Gaia, where are they? Ayag and Sarba asked in unison. My lord, congratulations on reaching the soul-refining stage. When talking to Michael through the spiders and mirror before, Azazel couldn't see the level of Michael's cultivation stage. Right at the moment, the demon butler could feel the immense power he was radiating and sense his cultivation stage. And I have to congratulate you for reaching core strengthening level 8. For some reason, Michael wasn't surprised by the demon reaching core strengthening stage level 8 from level 5 in a few months, virtually doing nothing. The demon butler was bound to Michael, so the stronger Michael was, the stronger the demon butler would be. I'm unworthy of such words, my lord, Azazel bowed as Michael turned his gaze towards the 3 heads staring at him for an answer about Gaia and Nightmare. They will soon, the moment he placed them on the table. They began to nag him about what happened in Mazeroth. It took him almost an hour to finish narrating everything that happened in Mazeroth and answer their questions. Azazel, tell Maxine and Tiberius to meet me in Caius' home. Yes, my lord, on the L world. COM platform. Azazel nodded. Now let's go meet Arya and her brothers. Chapter 477. The dark suit 2. Michael stopped by his room to change his clothes before meeting Arya and her brothers. Entering his room, he snapped his fingers as the light orbs fixed on the walls dimly lit the room in crimson red. Vidora jumped to the neatly made bed from his shoulder. The armor stand was located in the corner of his room beside the alchemy table void of any armor. Before equipping the armor through the system, he willed the system to put the armor on the armor stand. The next moment, the Lucifer armor was put on the armor by the system for display. Vidora noticed several changes in the armor, such as the armor being darker than before. The armor linings were painted in crimson red. The material of the armor seemed sturdy, and the long blades sticking out of the wrists. These were all visible changes. In addition to them, Michael equipped the armor with the upgraded APD and Mark III grappling hook, while Eladir placed invisible runes that increased the armor's resilience to withstand an immense amount of both physical and magical attacks. Thanks to the runes, now his armor was resistant to fire except primordial flames. The upgraded version of APD enabled him to not only inject himself with potions and pills, but also inject others using a retractable needle and spray potions through a sprayer attached to the center of his gloves. "You made some changes," Iag commented at the armor. "I call this Dark Suit 2." Michael planned to forge a new, more powerful armor in the future, but for now, he had to make do with this armor. He made all the changes he did to his suit to Gaia's Suit 2. Except for the chest area in her armor designed to fit her bosom, both armors looked identical. For a few moments, he just stared at the armor, feeling the armor. Instead of willing the system to equip the armor in an instant, he manually wore the armor piece by piece. Sling, sling. After fitting the gauntlets around his wrist, Michael clenched his fist as the hidden blades came out, producing a sharp sling sound. He then raised his hand. A green mist sprayed out of his wrists. "What the heck is that?" Iag frowned. "Fear toxin," Michael said, checking the APD by injecting himself with a healing potion. Several tests later, Michael put on the mask and finished putting on the armor. The latest _AP_SODIs are on _the L World .com website. He walked towards the mirror to check himself out. To be honest, he looked frightening in the armor. So he decided to shroud himself with the cloud of darkness and light his eyes with eyes of darkness. Unlike before, his eyes were now flaming in dark flames. Since he was standing in his room, near the bed, he avoided conjuring the dark flames around him. Nonetheless, the little bit of dark flames coming out of his eyes was enough for Vidora to sense its overwhelming power. Sarba, who now possessed the god-level senses, noticed the violent surge of energy within him. Just looking at the dark energy within him gave him a headache. He quickly retracted his senses. "So that's the dark flames? One of the primordial flames?" Sarba asked as Michael nodded. "Cool, isn't it? Or should I say hot?" Michael chuckled before putting off the dark flames. Soon, the shroud around him and the fire in his eyes vanished. "Let's go." Michael put on the hood. It was time for him to meet Arya and her two brothers, Titus and Optimus. Vidora jumped back on his shoulder with a swift leap. He made his way to the throne room where he planned to meet the trio. In the dark forest, two men with jacked-up bodies were treating a giant tree as their personal punching bag, while a girl with short hair sat on the branch above them and plucked the dark leaves one by one. "Are you becoming slow, Titus?" "Still faster than you." The two men breathed heavily as they were training in the dark forest for almost 10 hours. They were identical twins, and except for their hair color, nothing different about them. Even Arya would have a hard time if it wasn't for Titus having blonde hair and Optimus having brown hair. They had scars that many used to differentiate between the brothers. However, the healing potions and the rebuilding process healed all their scars. As a result, their skin was now smooth and scarless as a baby's bottom. Life in the dark forest was difficult for the brothers. Mainly it was boring, and they were prohibited to go on a murderous spree on those who enslaved them and killed their family. They still couldn't believe someone resurrected them and healed their bodies completely. The more they heard about this Lucifer from Arya, the more they were astonished by him. The tales Arya told them were simply mind-blowing. Updated _ at Elworld. Com. Deep down in their hearts, they were glad Arya found a godlike figure to protect her. She had grown so much they could tell that. She was not a meek, scared little girl anymore, as she defeated both of them in a fair fight. Titus and Optimus couldn't wait to see Arius Lord and Tiberius, who trained alongside them in the Ludus under Doctorus. "My lords, my lady." Titus and Optimus stopped their training when they heard Azazel's voice. The first time they saw Azazel, they freaked out. Now they got used to the sudden appearances of Azazel. "Lord Lucifer is here, and he wants to meet the three of you in the throne hall." Arya immediately jumped down from the branch and landed on the ground nimbly. Titus and Optimus looked at each other. They seemed a bit tense. Still, they followed Arya and Azazel behind to the underground mansion. The hallways were as usual dimly lit with crimson-red orbs fixed onto the walls. The eerie silence would freak anyone out, and the two gladiators weren't an exception. As the narrow hallway opened up to the hall, they saw a figure gracefully sitting on the throne clad in dark armor. With one leg over another and head resting on his fist, He looked relaxed yet dominant. Arya. Michael looked at Arya. My lord, take your brothers to Bradford. Sadie will use her connection there to get them into the army. Michael started his long-term plan of army building by sending Titus and Optimus to Bradford where they would be trained by Ghost, in other words by himself. Visit L-World. Com for a better user experience. As you wish, my lord. Deep down Arya was glad to hear Lucifer's order. Compared to serving Lucifer directly, getting appointed as soldiers under the new King Ghost was much safer. According to the information Arya gathered, Bradford was managed by the Sunrise sect rather than the new king who goes by the name Ghost. Due to the agreements Ghost signed with King Bredia, Bradford was immune to invasions and wars. Thus, she knew her brothers would be much safer in Bradford. After Arya and her brothers left the hall, Michael activated the runic teleportation to teleport to Caius' home with Vidora. Sarba's help would be vital for the task he was about to undertake. Chapter 478. The Castle of Vampires. Maxine and Tiberius were waiting in Caius' room with Caius for the Dark Lord. Since everything was going according to plan without any hiccups, they were pretty relaxed. Compared to the other two, Tiberius was slightly tensed up as he didn't like whatever slaughtered Logan's village to be alive and well. Logan told all about how their battle went. Tiberius thought only Lucifer and the Dark Queen could use magic, but now, there was another one. He couldn't wait to get some answers from Lucifer. Luckily, he didn't have to wait any longer as Michael appeared in the room out of thin air. My lord. Maxine immediately dropped to her knees. Then Caius and finally Tiberius did the same. Rise. Michael approached the chair before willing the system to replace the chair with his throne. You must be Caius. The moment Michael placed Vidora on the oak table, Ieg locked her gaze with Caius. Except for Maxine, who met Vidora a couple of times, Tiberius and Caius were startled to hear the menacing voice of the white head among the three. Yes, yes, my lady. Ieg emphasized the word my lady. She was extremely overbearing and dominant that despite her stature, she exerted enough pressure on Caius to turn his face pale. Tiberius, I presume. Nice to meet you. Sarba talked in an exactly opposite way of how Ieg spoke to Caius. Tiberius was surprised by how polite and respectful the silver head was. Well, it took a couple of seconds for Tiberius to find the right words to greet the majestic creature looking at him. Fuck it. Tiberius pushed away the thought of finding fancy words. Nice to meet you too. Tiberius went with a simple greet as Sarba nodded. Enough pleasantries? Michael raised his arm. Before we move to the obvious, tell me, how's everything on your end? Caius saw the dark eyes staring at him, and it felt as though he was staring into his soul itself. We have no problems on our side, my lord. In a week, Maven will be merged with Giselle with the support of the people of Maven. The latest underserved are on the world. COM website. The civil war he incited in Maven was going to finally pay off. He was glad to hear this update. General Quintus has recently started invading the lands of Pre-Rid. The name General Quintus rang a bell in his head. He pondered for a moment before remembering everything about Quintus. He was the man who invaded Arya's homeland, Weesite. He decimated the kingdom completely, removing Weesite from the map and expanding the territory of Kingdom Myril. What's our stand in this war? I was thinking we should support Pre-Rid, my lord. Caius stepped forward and pointed at the map on the table. His finger was on the kingdom Pre-Rid adjacent to Maven. And the kingdom of Pre-Rid was located between Maven and Myril. General Quintus has been expanding his territory for decades, and typically every 3 or 4 years, we have to change the map because of him. If we conquered Pre-Rid, the possibility of him trying to invade Maven is high. Everyone in the room agreed with Caius. Cain, you think you can handle this? Michael asked Cain instead of guiding Caius on what to do next. He decided to treat this situation as a test for Cain. Yes, Cain said confidently. He already plotted a plan in his head. Then Michael turned his gaze towards Maxine. What about you, Maxine? How is the mining going on? The new machines and the pulley system will be installed next week, my lord. After that, the mining process would be 300% faster. Good, Michael nodded. Finally, he turned his gaze to Tiberius. However, instead of asking for an update, Michael gave Tiberius an update. "We are going to capture that vampire, dead or alive," Tiberius has to say. He was indeed relieved to hear Lucifer. "How's Logan doing?" After what happened to Logan's village, Tiberius offered Logan to settle in Freedom City, which Logan wholeheartedly agreed. Not that Logan had any choice. The big man needed a safe place for the surviving villagers and his wife. "He's adjusting," said Tiberius. "New novel inserters are published here. L-World. Caius, prepare the airship." "Yes, my lord." Caius bowed before leaving the room. "My lord, what is that thing? It called itself a greater vampire?" Tiberius doubtfully asked. "That's what we are going to find out. One thing for sure, though, these creatures are extremely dangerous." Michael was fascinated by the vampires. However, he was also cautious since they could sue Arch Energy. His highest priority was to know more about the vampires, mainly, what are their strengths and weaknesses? How strong are they? Their hierarchy, how many of them are there? And finally, what's their purpose? Michael needed answers to all these questions. "I am sure Sarba here could help you locate that soon-to-be dead piece of shit," Iag menacingly said as Sarba bobbed his head up and down. Tiberius sensed the temperature suddenly dropping a bit. He then saw the intense murdering intent in the Whitehead's eyes. Somehow, it reminded him of the Dark Queen, which made him wonder where the Dark Queen was. Kane remained silent without participating in Iag's conversation. He was ironing out the tiny details in his plan until Michael said something related to the upcoming war between Prerid and Myril. "The slavery will soon come to an end after this war," Michael said, looking at Tiberius. He truly felt grateful to Lucifer in this regard. Just like he promised, Lucifer helped him build a new kingdom for all those who've been enslaved by the rich. Whether Myril and Prerid would be merged with Giselle and become a single large kingdom or not, Tiberius knew the slavery is coming to an end soon. "It's ready, my lord," Maxine said after being told by Caius through the earpiece. Her words brought Tiberius out of his imaginary world where slavery existed no more. Finally, Tiberius was relieved. Although it was only 5 minutes since Caius left, it felt like an eternity. The safety of his people was the most important thing to Tiberius. Now that the vampires threatened the very thing he was trying to protect, Tiberius was royally pissed off and wanted nothing more than to kill that bloodsucker. Tiberius and Maxine moved closer to his throne while Vidora jumped back on Michael's shoulder. The next moment, Michael activated the runic teleportation to teleport themselves to Caius' airship. Tiberius hated teleportation, but closing his eyes helped him deal with the after effects. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in the airship. "Set a course to where Logan fought the vampire," Maxine ordered Caius, as though she read Michael's thoughts. The daylight arrived as such intricately woven threads of gold so light that its creator could only be divine. On their way to the destination, Michael remained with his eyes closed. He was meditating and organizing his thoughts. Ever since he merged himself to become whole, he felt extremely powerful, which might unstable his mind as it did to Spectre. Therefore, he continued the meditation, which helped him control and connect with the dormant powers within him. After almost half an hour of flying, they finally reached their destination. From above, there was nothing but forest beneath them. Rather than flying down as Maxine and Tiberius expected, Michael took out several drones from his system storage. "Open the door," Michael ordered Maxine as she walked to the door, followed by the drones. Whoosh! As soon as she opened the door, a loud howling sound coupled with a powerful suction force tried to suck everything out of the airship. Maxine quickly shut the door and the drones were already out in the air. The latest _AP_SODIs are on the L-World. COM website. Michael closed his eyes, yet again monitoring and controlling all the drones manually. The drones buzzed through the forest like busy bees trying to get honey out of flowers. Only in this scenario they were surveying the area for the vampires. Maxine and Tiberius noticed his eyes were abruptly opening after a few minutes. "Did you locate him?" asked Diag. "You two stay here." Michael's face was serious underneath his mask. They couldn't see the look on his face. Still, they didn't try to disagree with him, even Tiberius, who was unable to wait patiently for the vampire. As he was walking towards the door with Vidora on his shoulder, Maxine followed him behind. Whoosh! Michael opened the door and everything happened just like before. Without wasting a second, Michael jumped out of the airship. He soared through the air like a meteor. Breaking through the canopy and countless branches, Michael and Vidora landed on the ground. Michael noticed the broken trees and the clearing, which were clear signs of the battle between the vampire and Logan. Although the rain that day wiped away the prints and the blood, Michael had a way to bring back the traces he needed. "What's the plan?" asked Iag, looking around the forest. Sensing strange vibrations coming from that direction, Sarba looked at their right side as Michael expected. Still, Michael needed one more test before pursuing the vibrations Sarba been sensing. Michael waved his hand around him, spraying a translucent liquid in the air. When the tiny particles of the potion melded with the ground beneath, several glowing footprints began to appear in their sight. This potion was the better version of the potion he used at Jack's murder site. The potion would reveal the bloodstains even after days or even months. Almost 99% of footprints were chaotic and human, except for the remaining 1%. It looked like a human footprint, however, only that pair of footprints were leading to the place where Michael noticed an anomaly. If that's the footprints of the vampire, I have to say it awfully similar to a human's system. Teleport Vidora back to the airship if things go south, although I doubt it will. Michael ordered the system. Yes, since Vidora was familiar, he didn't have to pay extra as he already paid up front before making Vidora his familiar. Michael followed the footprints while closely monitoring the environmental scanning map. In addition, the drones were also hovering around them to make sure no one ambushed them. There was nothing out of the order in the forest they noticed while following the tracks. The forest was dark and gloomy. The trees danced to an unheard beat, whispering their songs to the wind. Here, sheltered by the mighty trees, was every kind of life, from the humble beetle to poisonous snake. Their journey came to an end when they noticed the glowing footprints were no longer to be found. That's where Michael's X-ray vision came into the picture. What seemed like countless trees and muddy ground intervened with veins and roots. What seemed to be the perfect picture of rainforest wasn't a forest at all. It was an illusion, and Michael could see through this illusion thanks to his X-ray vision. Ignitia, Michael pointed his finger at a tree branch directly above them. The moment the lightning bolt hit the branch, Vidora saw the scenery before them flickering. Soon, the forest they saw just a moment ago completely vanished from existence. Visit Elworld. For the best known survival experience, a gloomy grayish area welcomed them, and in the distance, they saw an ancient castle under a blood-red sky. Chapter 479, The Castle of Vampires 2 System. The moment you sense a threat we can't handle, buy a teleportation scroll and teleport me away. Michael telepathically talked to the system. He was standing in what felt like a pocket dimension similar to the one in the dark forest. As far as his environmental scanning could reach, the scanning found no living beings. He knew that didn't mean he was alone in the dimension. Once again, he raised his arm, spraying the potion into the air to reveal the bloody tracks. "This place looks freaky," Sarba commented, looking around the freaky castle grounds. There were countless skeletons that seemed like giant birds lay on the ground, half buried in the red sand. He followed the bloody foot tracks left behind by the vampire to the castle. He had reached the 30 steps leading to the castle, yet there were no guards, defenses, or anything for that matter. Michael climbed the stairs, showing no signs of fear. Ever since he merged his soul pieces back together, he barely felt any fear. That didn't mean he was void of fear, he just changed. Before, when his soul was split into 3, he would have been a little freaked out. When they climbed up the steps and saw 2 statues of soldiers flanking the giant oak door. "I sense 2 life signs," Sarba closed his eyes before saying. Meanwhile, Michael pushed open the door, revealing the empty, gloomy throne hall. As he entered the throne hall, he was welcomed by slim braziers hanging from each of the 12 limestone columns that lit up every part of the throne hall and coat everything in a red glimmer. The humongous chandeliers hanging from the arched ceiling dance in the flickering light, while statuettes and gargoyles looked down upon the stone floor of this magnificent hall. A blood-red rug split the entire room in half and was matched by the thinner ones on either side of the hall, while ribbon banners with burnished margins draped from the walls. Between each banner hangs a torch. They've all been lit and in turn illuminated the mosaics of various figures. Massive, colored glass windows were neighbored by veils colored the same chestnut as the banners. The curtains have been adorned with emblazoned edges and decorating tips. Regardless of the decoration and the grandeur of the throne hall, it lacked the thing a throne hall shouldn't: a throne. There was no throne in the throne hall. Where the throne should have been was a 4-foot pillar. Atop the pillar one could see a porcelain bowl. Where are the vampires? Are they cocky bastards who think no one would break into their castle, or they are dead? Ayag couldn't help asking after noticing the barren land and the empty throne hall. I told you, I'm sensing 2 living beings. They are down, Sarba informed as Michael walked towards the pillar. While he was walking, Ayag looked around for stairs. However, she found none. The throne hall had no other rooms, stairs, or anything that seemed like leading to the other parts of the castle. I don't see any stairs, Ayag headbutt Michael on the side of his face. Because there aren't any, Michael calmly said. System, scan this pillar, he willed the system, paying 1,000 badass points. The host needs the blood of a vampire to activate this lift. Since you don't have any, you have to pay the system additional 4,000 badass points to hack the lift. Hack it. The latest underservices are on the world. COM website. Vidora saw the ground beneath tremble as the ground began to descend. A lift, interesting. Michael was amused. Something told me the vampires might be slightly or ridiculously advanced than the rest of the world. This was the first time he had seen a lift in this world. The lift was descending for almost 10 minutes before it came to a halt. The wall before them slowly slid open to reveal yet another gloomy hall lit with torches. Unlike the throne hall above, this hall was darker, gloomier, and had one large round table at the end of the hall. Where are the 2? Ayag asked Sarba. There. Sarba looked near the round table. You smell that? Sarba asked. The place reeks of blood. Ayag took a whiff of the air and said, as they were saying, the place indeed reeked of blood. Too much blood, to be honest. Michael could imagine what kind of horrors might have happened here, or how much blood would have been spilled for the air to turn like this. If a weak-hearted person entered here, they would have been puking their guts out. Even with his mask, which was built to filter the air, he could smell the blood. There's a door. When they reached the round table, they saw a metal door on the side of the wall. Rather than immediately checking out what's on the other side of the metal door, Michael hopped over the round table because that's where the bloody footprints ended and a huge splatter of blood could be seen. My gut says it's our greater vampire, Ayag said as Sarba and Kane nodded. Michael squatted down to check out the dried blood. What are you doing? Ayag saw Michael scrap the dried blood off the ground and put chunks of blood into a vial. It's possible they had a meeting here and the higher-ups in the vampire hierarchy killed the greater vampire for leaving witnesses. Kane saw the chairs around the table and connected the dots. Ayag and Sarba nodded as Kane's words made sense. Why shouldn't we ask the one there? Michael pointed at the metal door. Michael calmly walked towards the door, but not before placing Spider all around the hall and sending a few through the gap between the door and the floor to see what's on the other side. His drones were still flying around the castle grounds to see if anyone was coming, but until now, the drones found no one. The castle grounds were empty. Michael's calm face turned cold as he kicked open the metal door. Visit L-World. OM for a better user experience. Boom. The metal door flew into the hall on the other side like a bullet, revealing a cloaked figure at the end of the hall. Vidora could see another figure tied to a pole in front of the cloaked figure. Just in time. I was getting sick of this guardian blood. The cloak figure's cold voice echoed through the empty dark hall. One could barely see anything in the hall, and if it wasn't for the ceiling directly above the cloaked figure letting through some light, the hall would be pitch black. The figure slowly turned around like a supervillain in a movie. The figure took his sweet time taking off the cloak. As soon as he did, Michael was surprised because he had seen him way before. Victor, it was Victor. The same Victor he saw on the Phoenix Island where he had a conflict with Lord Julius. At that time, Victor was a core-strengthening stage warrior. On the other hand, Victor had no idea that the man before him was Ghost. Even if he did, Michael didn't think Victor would give a damn. Three-headed Hydra. Exotic Victor licked his lips, and when he did, Michael saw the vampire fangs sticking out of his mouth. They were longer and more menacing than the ones shown in the movies. Not more exotic than a vampire, Michael snickered as the grin on Victor's face turned evil. "Darkness gives thy blessing," Victor roared. The very next moment, Victor turned onto a cloud of red smoke. The smoke vanished as Vidora looked around. Since Victor disappeared, they were able to see the girl tied to the pole. The girl's head was hidden beneath the sack on her head, and that was the only part of her body that had some cover as she stood naked. Her body was covered in her own blood. Vidora looked closer, finding that the girl was not tied to the pole but nailed to the pole through her arms, legs, and stomach. She looked like Jesus except she was bloodier, naked, and had several bite marks. It was obvious the vampires had been munching on her like she was some kind of living blood bag. Seeing this, Michael was pissed off. "Behind us!" Sarba shouted, sensing Victor's presence behind them. Victor wrapped his arms around Michael, and just when he was about to sink his teeth into Michael's neck, the dark flames shot out of his body. "Ah!" Victor immediately leaped away from Michael, screaming in agony. Just a sliver of dark flames was enough to burn Victor's armor to nothingness. "I thought vampires would be stronger." Michael raised his hand as the shadows surrounding Victor moved as though they came to life and grew limbs. They instantly grabbed Victor. "You get powers from the darkness." "But I am—" Michael flicked and pulled his arm as Victor flew right into his arm. The darkness sling. The source of this _chapter. L-World. Calm. Michael lifted Victor by his neck in one hand, and the hidden blade came out of its sheath in the other hand. Michael swung the hidden blade, cutting Victor's right hand clean off from his shoulder. "H!" Victor screamed in agony. Chapter 480. Can Peyton be turned against the Guardians? Michael wasn't as surprised as Vidora was because Michael knew it was Peyton way before he took off the sack around her head. He heard Tiriana and the Alpha Guardian talk about the missing Guardians led by Peyton, and Victor told him he was sick of Guardian blood. Michael connected the dots and reached a conclusion: it was Peyton. Peyton's face was messed up as though the vampires were drinking her blood and beating her up for some sick pleasure. Michael hated the Guardians, but no one deserved this. Peyton could barely say the word. "I think we should put her out of her misery," Iag sighed. Even Iag, who inherited the personality of Gaia, couldn't help feeling pity for Peyton. "No." Michael gently grabbed her bloodied shoulder, injecting her with a little bit of healing potion to keep her alive, and with the blood tonic to end her life if she tried to be a hero, although Michael doubted she would. "Are you the Dark Lord?" Instead of answering Peyton, Michael retrieved a piece of cloth and covered her naked body before removing the nails. "System, teleport us to the crypt." Michael willed the system. Since Michael was with Peyton and Victor, he couldn't use the runic teleportation. Hence, the system happily bought a teleportation scroll for 10,000 badass points and used it to teleport them away from the vampire castle, but not before leaving a teleportation rune. Delar and Jesse were attaching mind-controlling chips inside the Alpha Undead when they say Dark Lord suddenly appeared in the middle of the hall out of thin air. Carry on. Michael was too focused on the task at hand to notice the 20 Alpha Undead standing at ease like super soldiers. First, Michael injected Victor with a whole lot of paralyzing poison and fear toxin. Then, he forced Peyton to sit on one of the chairs in front of a large oak table and his throne. Peyton was too traumatized to even look around. Her dead eyes had lost the glow Michael saw in them when they met before. He could only imagine what she may have gone through. "You should see this." Michael waved his hand as a giant mirror appeared before Peyton. Peyton's attention was immediately drawn by the feed that appeared. She saw the familiar faces of Tiriana and the person she looked up to the most, Tanulia, aka the Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians. Peyton recruited these Guardians and— "What is it, Tiri?" Visit L-World. For a better user experience, the last member she recruited is Sabrina. Sabrina Winston, Noah's little sister. What the fuck was she thinking? She recruited someone who's not even a Guardian? That bitch is expendable. But not her. If we are to lose Sabrina and Noah found out that his little sister died because of us, everything will be ruined. The feed stopped as Vidora expected some anger outburst from Peyton. However, Peyton didn't react as they expected. Only tears were rolling out of her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking in her mind. Michael began to play the mind games with her by putting the feed on a loop. That bitch is expendable. But not her. Peyton was feeling so many emotions at once. We have to find her no matter what. Immediately contact every single guardian in the southern continent. I'm authorizing Code Red. Use all and any resources. I need Sabrina found ASAP. I will contact the other alphas. After Tanulia spoke these words in the feed, Michael tapped the table. Your devotion is misplaced, Peyton. You heard her. For them, you who dedicated your whole life to the guild is simply. Michael paused for a moment. Expendable. Michael willed the system to play the feed again, fanning the flames of anger within Peyton's heart. Peyton couldn't move her eyes away from the mirror. She felt so betrayed because she was betrayed. She lost the count of days being tortured and getting her blood sucked out by vampires in that torture room. All that time, she had hope in Alpha Guardians and the Hunter Guardians that they would come to her rescue. The vampires tortured her every single minute without a break. Every single day they sexually abused her. They sucked her blood from every bit of her body, cut her flesh for fun, and healed her up so they could start all over again. Nothing was able to break her spirit as she endured everything they did to her. However, Tanulia's words hurt and caused her more pain than the vampires ever could. This is the real face of the so-called Guardians, Peyton. It took several minutes before Peyton opened her mouth. Why did you save me? She looked directly in his eyes, completely avoiding eye contact with Vidora. Full Carnival on L-World. COM, because you don't deserve what you went through and I only punish those who deserve to be punished. You're free to go. I bet they will welcome you with a parade, Iag said sarcastically. Even if they don't throw you in the prison or whatever the Guardians have. Your career ends here, Kane informed Peyton. After hearing his siblings talk, Sarba also decided to give her a piece of his mind. You should really think about what you're going to do next, Peyton. They don't deserve your faith and loyalty anymore. If it wasn't for him, who you people branded evil, you would have been still in that hell. Your guild calls themselves Guardians, but they failed to guard their own. If they wanted, they could have used the resources they are spending on locating Sabrina to save you, your team, and eradicating the vampires. Michael let Sarba talk. He could see Peyton trembling in anger, and her blood-red eyes, as well as the veins bulging out of her skin, was evident of her anger. They're probably not even aware of the vampires because they are too busy searching for one person. The moment you return to your guild, they will treat you more like a traitor than a survivor. Do yourself a favor, don't believe the Guardians and the Great Clans blindly. They are not what you think. While Peyton was staring at Vidora, Michael moved a spider into her hair, then into her skin through the cut on the back of her neck. Take a long look in the mirror and think about where your loyalty should be. I know you joined Guardians wanting to change the world for the better. If you still want to do that, come find me. Michael slid a card marked with the location of somewhere secluded in the Elon continent. The very next moment, Michael waved his hand as Peyton disappeared from the crypt. Vidora did not expect Michael would teleport Peyton away, as they thought he was going to turn her against the Guardians, or at least get some valuable information about the Guardians from her. What the hell did you do? I thought we were getting close to turning her against her people. Iag frowned. She is too emotional now. We just put the seed of anger and betrayal in her heart. Let's give it some time to grow and become a giant tree. Then we don't have to go to her. She will come to us. Michael was pretty confident. There was no turning back for Peyton after hearing Tanulia and Tiriana. She was betrayed by the people she trusted, which would do some serious damage to her and shake Peyton's beliefs. I hope she doesn't blabber about us and everything, said Iag. Michael shook his head slightly. If she tried, Michael would know and he would activate the nanites in her body to kill her instantly. The sun was slowly rising on the horizon from its slumber, painting the green hills of the sunrise sect with its golden rays. The early morning arrived as a promise kept for the disciples to spend yet another day in their wonderful sect. A group of students was flocking toward a gigantic dome made of glass with bright faces. Today they were going to harvest the ripened fruits and herbs from the largest herbal garden in all the sects on the Elon continent. Unlike 2 years ago, the Sunrise sect was filled with disciples. The place looked lively as never before. There were many new buildings, teachers, fountains, and carriages going in and out. Most of these carriages belonged to various nobles who were trying to put their kids into the sect because the Sunrise sect had become one of the best in Elon. Updated_at Elworld. Calm at the moment. A green-haired beauty was running through the crowd of students carrying a stack of books in her hand towards the herbal garden. Good morning, Miss Olivia. Good morning, Miss Olivia. Morning, Miss Olivia. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. The students were greeting Olivia while moving away from her path. Today was the last day of the assignments Ghost gave her, and she had to harvest 128 herbs to be exact. In her hurry to the garden, she dropped one of her books. She didn't notice that until someone called her from behind. You dropped this. Olivia's mind realized the chit-chatter of the students suddenly disappeared as though someone switched off the noise around her. Her body froze in its path when she recognized the face. As expected, she turned around and saw her mentor, Ghost, smiling at her. Teacher! She almost put the stacks of books in her hand down in shock. Most of the students who were new to the sect and hadn't seen Ghost in person were stunned too. They were just gawking at him with their eyes wide open. Michael walked towards Olivia, who was trembling due to the surprise he gave her. She hadn't expected Ghost to be back for another 3 months. Teacher, you're back. Yep. Let's go see sect leader Claire and everyone. Michael loved the sound of notifications ringing in his head, awarding him with badass points. It had been 3 months since he left the sect, and if his math was right, 50 million gold coins would be sitting there for him to collect. It was time he turned those coins into badass points using the banker function and upgraded the system so he could have more subordinates. As soon as he finishes here, he could finally start interrogating Victor back in the dark forest. The latest _AP_SODIes are on _the L world. See OM website. Chapter 481 Cold War between Bradford and Bredia. Cold War between Bradford and Bredia. Teacher Olivia was brimming with joy, but soon Michael noticed slight distress in her eyes. Or should I call you, Your Majesty? Olivia joked. Michael smiled and patted her gently on the back. I'm not into the king thing very much, he said while walking towards Claire's mansion, which was buzzing with people. Teacher, I thought you'll be gone for 18 months. Did you get expelled? She started at him curiously with her big round eyes. Geesh, why did you think that? They just got impressed with your teacher's skills and gave him early holidays. Somehow Oliva didn't think he was joking, though he said like he was kidding. Arham, for a moment. Olivia dragged her voice as though she was searching for words in her mind. Teacher, how long will you be here? Michael asked. At the same time talking to Olivia, he didn't fail to greet the students who were dying to talk to him. Everyone Michael smiled at was trembling in joy. They were over the moon. A simple gesture like nodding and patting on the back raised Michael's image in their hearts to the next level. For Michael, it felt great to receive badass points just by walking and greeting students. He didn't even do anything badass yet, he was receiving a lot of badass points. A month or so, she halted her steps suddenly as Michael turned to see her looking at him with puppy eyes. Would you please come to the alchemy tournament as a judge? Michael was surprised by her requests. He creased his brows. Visit Elworld. Calm. For the best known to serenity experience, alchemy tournament? That was supposed to happen months ago, right? Olivia nodded. Yes, but they postponed it for some reason. It's starting next week, and the guild has been sending me so many letters asking me if you can come to the tournament as one of the judges. Michael couldn't help snicker. What changed? I recall they asked me to come to the tournament as a participant, not as a judge. Michael resumed walking. They said there was some kind of mix-up and someone wrote a wrong invitation. Really? Michael dragged the word as though he was laughing inside. Both of them knew it was nothing but a blatant lie. There was no mix-up or mistake. They were too arrogant to invite someone who was just a fraction of their age as their fellow judge. Now that they learned he got admitted into Mazeroth, they just wanted to curry favor. What's in it for me? And if my memory serves right, you were training a group of students. Yes, I am still training them, and the answer to your first question is Aqua Auction Token. That's what you will get, teacher, should you choose to come as a judge. What's that? Michael asked. He had no idea what the heck is an Aqua Token, but by the look on Olivia's face, he realized that it might be a big deal. Since auctions were places where he could find some really powerful artifacts, he was tempted to accept the Alchemy Guild's request. Why am I not surprised? She sighed, thinking about her teacher's lack of knowledge of what's happening in the world. You heard about the Phoenix Manor auction, right, teacher? Michael nodded. How could he forget that place? He met his vampire friend there, and at that time, Lord Julius, who was a core-strengthening stage warrior, threatened his life. Well, the Phoenix Manor auction is a beggar compared to the Aqua auction. It's one of the most prominent and if not the biggest auction in the world. If you want to actually bid for the items in the auction, the token is the only way. People will pay millions to get their hands on the tokens. So where will this auction take place exactly? Visit to L-World. Discover_new novels. Kingdom Alara in our continent. Until now Michael was only tempted to go as a judge, but after hearing that the auction will take place in the our continent, he decided to accept the Alchemy Guild's invitation. He always wanted to check out the most powerful and the richest continents of them all, but he didn't get the chance till now. When? Asked Michael. If it was before Mazeroth, he wouldn't have worried about the time. Now he had to, as he only got 45 days of break. 2 weeks from today, and do not worry about the traveling time, teacher. The token has a rune that will teleport you directly to one of the rooms assigned to that token in Alara. You can bring Elia with you and speak of Elia. Olivia looked around to locate Elia. It was rare for Olivia or anyone to see Ghost alone without his other shadow. Stop looking. She is still in seclusion. Olivia giggled, squinting her eyes. She forgot the thing that's been bothering her for a moment. Both of them discussed alchemy on their way to Claire's mansion, and when they entered the mansion, they saw Claire sitting on a throne-like sofa and talking to several men and women in their middle ages. She had one leg over another and looked intimidating like a queen. That's your problem. I want the patty seeds delivered on the agreed date. Claire's brows arched up as though they were a pair of swords. Her voice and demeanor were extremely dominating, which made Michael appreciate her. If I heard one more bandit attack or out-of-stock excuse from any of you, I will personally bring down the wrath of the entire Sunrise sect on every single of you. Michael could see the people shivering from where he was standing. In her furious state, Claire failed to notice Ghost standing in the hallway. What about you, Lord Cyril? Claire turned her gaze to the ones sitting right to her. What made you hand over the working contracts to Kethin instead of Bradford? As I recall, you always hired the people of Bradford, not Kethin. Your decision has cost hundreds of people losing their jobs. Olivia began to shudder. Everyone in the sect was trying to fix the situation of Bradford before Ghost came back from Mazeroth. They all feared how Ghost would react if he knew what's going on in Bradford. Claire and the elders didn't try to hide the situation, but they wanted to deal with the situation themselves instead of involving him or Elia. Sect leader Claire, can we address the elephant in the room? We are here because of the Cold War between Bradford and Bredia. Our hands are tied, Sect leader Claire. We cannot make an enemy out of King Bredia and Ghost. That's King Ghost for you? Claire coldly corrected the brown-haired man. Pardon me, Sect leader. We cannot make an enemy out of King Bredia or King Ghost. We may have given the jobs to Kethin, but we will give the mining contract to the people of Bradford. That would suffice, right? The man tried his best to sound as polite and courteous as possible. The most up-to-date NOV_Ls are published _here L-World. Calm people of Bradford are not miners, Lord Cyril. They are farmers and fishermen. Besides, the mines at the border between Bredia and Bradford. I don't have to remind you how many men and women Bredian soldiers arrested for some phony crimes they never committed in the first place. Michael was listening to her words calmly. His calmness freaked Olive, as she knew that there will always be calmness before a freaking storm. That's why we recommend you hold a peace talk with King Bredia and sort this out. Sect leader Claire. We feel like we're stuck in a tug-of-war between Bredia and Bradford. the dark-haired woman sitting next to Cyril pleaded to Claire as they all bobbed their heads. In 3 days, King Bredia will hold a gala celebrating the engagement between Princess Catherine and Andrew Winston. If you would. Lord Cyril didn't finish his sentence as his words trailed away. They were merchants who had several contacts in both kingdoms. Through those contacts, they learned that King Bredia hasn't invited anyone from Bradford, not even for a courtesy. Thus, they were practically asking Claire to go uninvited and hold a peace talk with him, which had the highest possibility of her being humiliated or disrespected by King Bredia and his men regardless of her status. It's more appropriate for me to attend. Before Claire could respond to Cyril, another voice reverberated in the hall. They all turned their heads in the direction where the voice came from and saw Ghost walking towards them. They felt chill running through their spines as they immediately stood up as though their seats were on fire. Ghost Claire lost her domineering demeanor when she saw him. A wide grin from ear to ear emerged on her cold face. She almost hugged him, but fortunately, she stopped herself with only squeezing his hands. King Ghost, Your Majesty. Some addressed him by King, while some mumbled Your Majesty in shock and surprise. The pressure on their shoulders just multiplied by 1,000 folds after he made his appearance. They thought Claire was exerting dominance until he appeared. Sect leader Claire, you're looking good before dealing with the situation at hand. Michael greeted Claire with a smile. He took Claire by her hand and made her sit on the sofa back. Olivia stood beside Claire waiting to see how is he going to deal with the merchants. I am sorry for the hardships you've been facing because of Bradford. Thank you for coming here, ladies and gentlemen. I will personally meet King Bredia and fix everything. Michael emphasized the word everything. His words should have reassured them. Instead, they all shuddered because those words sounded more like a declaration of war. Olivia, please show these ladies and gentlemen the way out. Ladies and gentlemen. Olivia gestured at the merchants to follow her. The merchants did not dare to linger any longer. They rushed outside, leaving Claire and Ghost behind. Only when the merchants left the hall and Alvii returned, Michael sat on the sofa beside Claire. Visit L-World. COM for a better reading experience. So King Bredia's been giving Bradford a hard time, huh? Some people never let go of something they should. Do they? The smile on Michael's face disappeared, and in its place, a cold, murderous look arose. Although you won't miss anything in HBS if you don't read Anti-Hero with a Symbiote System HSS, I strongly recommend everyone to read it because HSS is set in the parallel universe of HBS, and you will see lots of references to Michael and insights of HBS universe as well as origins of the badass system. Chapter 482 Engagement Gala. Olivia sat on the sofa facing Michael. He leaned back, resting his head on his fist. You have nothing to worry about. Everything is under control, Claire softly said. Things could have been better if I had tied some loose ends. Michael's face was void of any expression. What's truly going on, sect leader Claire? Tell me everything. His gaze turned colder as Claire found no strength to hide what was going on in Bradford. Besides, he trusted them with the kingdom, so Claire knew that he deserved to know the truth. Letting out a deep sigh of breath, Claire and Olivia began to narrate the events unveiled over the last 3 months. Almost 15 minutes later, they finished their report and expected some kind of reaction from Ghost, who listened to everything showing no emotions at all. They were unable to grasp what he was thinking or what the hell was going on in his head. After hearing Claire and Olivia, Michael realized why he received no reports from Azazel about Bradford. From the outside, Bradford was running as usual. Inside, however, the kingdom was dying little by little, and Claire was the one keeping the kingdom alive using the treasury of the Sunrise sect. According to Claire, the merchant companies who used to trade with Baron Totonk stopped their trading. In addition, the various noble families of Bredia who owned businesses fired the people of Bradford and stopped buying fish and farm products produced in Bradford. In simple words, they blacklisted Bradford. Over the 3 months, Bradford had lost most of the revenue streams. Thus, Claire and Elder Sandra had to access the sect treasury to keep the people from starving to death. If this wasn't enough, the Bredian soldiers had been exerting an absurd amount of tax on anyone who comes to Bradford through their borders, as well as arrested Bradford citizens for phony crimes that they never committed. Because of this, New merchants and nobles stopped visiting Bradford, and Bradford citizens quit traveling to Bredia for work. Even Hadis' income was affected by Bredia. Michael doubted that the nobles of Bredia visited Hades much over the past 3 months. Claire also mentioned that some of the prominent noble families left Bradford, and those who worked for them lost their jobs, which enlarged the hole of unemployment. Altogether put a major strain on Bradford. If it wasn't for Claire's deals with lesser nobles and new merchants, the kingdom's economy would have completely collapsed. However, Claire and Sandra weren't magicians who could perform a miracle and fix the economy right away. Without new revenue streams and new jobs for the Bradford citizens, the kingdom would sink eventually. Olivia, Michael turned his gaze to Olivia. Your father has contacts in Bredia, right? This is a delicate situation which has to be dealt with utmost caution. Olivia pitched in, letting Michael know her thoughts. Do you think I am rash and unreasonable? Michael asked the two girls. When he looked at Daniel and Ricky, they immediately shook their heads, wordlessly telling him he was neither. If anyone was unreasonable and rash, it's King Bredia. He was the one who decided to marry his daughter to whoever won the tournament. I won that, and I wasn't going to marry that princess, even though I could have said yes. No one would have batted an eye. Ricky and Daniel bobbed their heads up and down, agreeing with Michael. The latest unreserved episodes are off website. I was perfectly reasonable and, if not, magnanimous when I rejected the princess. Now Princess Catherine gets to marry her love, and King Bredia gets to see his daughter happy. All because of what I did. Olivia agreed with Ghost. She had met hundreds of men in her life, and she couldn't find a single one who would have rejected a princess. Despite what the others were thinking, she knew her teacher was a good guy. Otherwise, he would have married her and destroyed her love without batting an eye, as most would have. If she was in King Bredia's shoes, she wouldn't have messed with Bradford. All I asked in return is being left alone. Tell me, sect leader Claire, why can't he leave me be? Claire had no answer for him as he turned his head to Daniel and Ricky. When is this engagement gala? In 3 days, right? Yes, Master Ghost, as Ricky said. Michael stood up, and so did Olivia and Claire. Ghost, what are you going to do? Asked Claire with a worried face. The last thing they needed was an open war between Bradford and Bredia. Although Bradford had 1/3 of Bredia's army, they were nowhere near to defeating Bredia in an all-out war. Don't you think I should attend the gala as a well-wisher of Bredia and the princess? Claire's heart skipped a beat when she heard him. They all felt a chill running through their spines because his words sounded colder, drenched in killing intent. Ricky, go to Grand Spire Bank in Flamefair and ask Miss Valric to meet me at Hades. Bradford owed Sunrise Sect millions of gold, and there were some things Michael wouldn't do even for millions of badass points, and one of those things was being in debt. Thus, he decided to pay the amount Claire gave to Bradford from the sect's treasury. Claire tried to stop Ghost from doing whatever he was planning to do, but before she could say anything, he raised his hand. This is something I have to deal with myself. Claire, Michael cast the lightning dash spell and disappeared from the room, leaving a trail of golden light. How strong is he now? Olivia wondered. The pressure Claire felt when he cast the spell was several times stronger than what she felt around her grandfather. Somehow Claire couldn't even think that he had reached the soul refining stage. Michael didn't stop until he reached Hades. Most of the river town people were going on with their lives when he descended to the doorsteps of Hades. Before many on the streets could notice, Michael entered Hades and saw the restaurant was loaded with people. Except for a few tables reserved for him, elders of the Sunrise Sect, and his subordinates, the rest of the tables were occupied by the nobles and rich from various kingdoms and families. Visit. For the best-known experience, Michael raised many eyebrows as he entered the Hades, especially the girls who stared at him as though they were going to eat him alive. He made his way to the table reserved for him. It was a curved sofa located at the far end of the hall. It was only a couple of seconds after he sat when he saw Gloria rushing to his table from the back. Master Ghost Gloria immediately bowed, greeting him with a wide smile. Michael disliked being addressed as His Majesty. Somehow it felt weird for him. Therefore, he ordered everyone to keep addressing him as Master Ghost instead of Your Majesty. Hey Gloria, how are you? Michael asked with his usual gentle, alluring smile. I am doing wonderful, thanks to you, Master Ghost. Sorry, we didn't expect you. I could have done something special. No need. I just wanted to surprise my favorite manager. Master Ghost Gloria let out a shy grin as her face reddened slightly. Where's Raylene? In the kitchen. Gloria bobbed her head as Michael expected. I should go tell her you're here. Hearing her, Michael shook his head. No. It seems you guys are so busy. Let her work. I can meet her after we close, this time. Gloria, who was the one, shook her head. No, Master Ghost. If I don't let her know you're here, she will fire me. Please let me inform Lady Raylene, Master Ghost. Michael chuckled, looking at her pleading with puppy eyes. Okay, and I would like a glass of grape juice and special, please. Coming right up, Master Ghost. The nobles who saw the conversation between Gloria and Ghost were pleasantly surprised. Many heard that he was a man of simplicity despite his talents. It was truly stunning to witness his simplicity in person. The latest _AP_SODIes are on website. Now they knew why the people of Rivertown worship him regardless of the recent hardships they were facing. Chapter 483, The War Between the Pentown and Flamefair. As soon as Gloria went into the kitchen, Raylene rushed out. Her sweaty face had a wide, bright smile. Master Ghost. She tried to kneel down, but Michael stopped her by grabbing her shoulder. Sit down. Michael had to apply some pressure to make her sit down beside him. Her rosy face was completely drenched in sweat. Michael could notice the redness in her hand, which was a mark of her hard work. I hope everything's going well, Raylene. Yes, Master Ghost. You have nothing to worry about. Me and Gloria even thinking about opening another branch in Royal Land. Her words really made Michael happy. It felt great for him to see his subordinates finally making up good decisions themselves without his guidance. For him, it was like seeing the birdlings spreading their wings and flying away from the nest on their own. Raylene leaned back on the sofa facing Michael's eyes. We are just waiting for Lady Elia to come out of her seclusion and clear up some of the financial sides of things. Master Ghost, is she still in her seclusion? Michael nodded. But go ahead. I'm meeting someone handling my account in Grand Spire. I will transfer the coins to your account. About that, Master Ghost. Raylene scratched her temples. I took the liberty of opening a separate account in Grand Spire for the restaurant, and I've been depositing the profits into that account. Look at my Raylene, all grown up. Michael laughed as he ruffled her head as though she was a little girl to see her giggle. Any problems transferring the coins to the bank? Asked Michael. Considering Raylene would have to physically bring the coins to the bank and deposit them into the account. She was vulnerable to getting attacked by thieves or bandits. Good thing Michael let Lord Malin handle the security side, since the Bradley family specialized in providing security. When I was opening the account, Lord Malin himself came here to escort me to the bank. After that, Raylene leaned closer to Michael. Visit. For the best no-underserved experience, once a week, he will send a courier here. Only I know how to identify the courier, she whispered to him. So you put the coins in a space ring and send the courier to the bank? Yes, Raylene nodded. The courier will make the deposit on my behalf and another courier will bring me the receipt. Michael nodded, although he could tell this process was still not 100% foolproof. For instance, the courier could steal the space ring and find someone to break the seal for him. It was difficult to break open a space ring, but it was not impossible. If an amateur runemaster like Wilkes could do it, any run-of-the-mill runemaster might possess the skill to do it better. Since he wouldn't be here always to transfer the coins to the system storage, he had to accept the risks. She repeated the process and transferred 2 million into Hades' account, which could be used to open up another branch of Hades in Royal Land. Miss Valric, do you happen to know anything about the Aqua auction? Yes. Is Master Ghost planning to attend? It depends on whether the amount in my account is sufficient or not. Michael stared at Valric as she realized that he was expecting her to tell him if it's enough or not. He was a VIP customer and she had to prioritize keeping him as happy as possible. Because of that, she sugar-coated her next words. If you manage to get yourself a token, You can bid for the items in the first round visit. For the best no_vel_read_ing experience, Michael expected this. Her words clearly indicated that he was poor to bid for the items that would appear in the later stages of the auction. The items that would appear in the beginning stages of the auction were just ordinary items. He very well knew that. What if I start an auction house myself? A thought appeared in his mind. For now, he shelved the idea in the corner of his mind. Chapter 484 Trial of Peyton. In the capital town of Kingdom Dreadle, a grandeur castle stood tall. 14 thick, square towers reaching for the sky were scattered in a seemingly random pattern, but were built for an ideal defense and were connected by high, narrow walls made of emerald green stone. Grand windows were scattered generously around the walls in seemingly perfect symmetry, along with asymmetric crenellations for archers and artillery. A great gate with giant metal doors, a drawbridge, and a moat guarded the only easy way across the river. Well-kept gardens with fragrant flowers, gorgeous trees, and many bushes decorated the outside of the castle. This castle had clearly stood the test of time. The rocks of the walls were aged and vines and plants grew inside the cracks, but this castle would last for ages to come. Currently, several carriages were going in and out of the castle, and Peyton was in one of those carriages. The Guardian Guild had several headquarters sprinkled throughout the world, and this castle was the headquarters of the Elon continent. This was where they dealt with everything related to the Elon continent. Peyton remained silent throughout her journey from the southern continent to her manor to the castle. The memories of Alpha's guardian abandoning her for Sabrina kept flashing across her mind. She could not stop it. Her blood was boiling in rage. Not in a million years did she think she would be betrayed by the Guardian Guild, especially by the Alpha Guardian whom Peyton worshipped as a god. To this moment she had a hard time believing she was saved by the Dark Lord. After seeing the images he showed her, she didn't think the Guardians would have ever looked for her. Deep down she knew if it wasn't for the Dark Lord, she would still be getting tortured by the vampires. Unlike what one would expect, no one stopped the carriages to search them. There were countless runes and arrays placed all around the castle that protected the castle from intruders and enemies. When a guardian was initiated into the guild, they would receive a mark. If anyone tried to enter the castle without bearing this mark, they would be immediately incapacitated and arrested by the elite soldiers patrolling the castle grounds. Since Peyton had the mark, she entered the castle grounds without any hiccups. In addition, there was an array designed by a 6-star runemaster that suppressed all the Guardians' cultivation levels to the body-strengthening stage except for a selected few, including Peyton. However, at the moment, she felt her cultivation was being suppressed to body-strengthening stage. Peyton creased her brows. For a second she thought it was some kind of mistake, but then she remembered the words of the 3-headed creatures she saw with the Dark Lord. The moment you return to your guild, they will treat you more like a traitor than a survivor. The carriage gradually came to a halt. Peyton remained in the carriage for a few moments, trying to calm her mind. Then, she stepped out of the carriage onto the courtyard. The courtyard was decorated with a large fountain in the center and neatly pruned gardens. The paved ground was clean and spotless without a speck of dust. As soon as she stepped out of the carriage, the guardians relaxing in the courtyard turned their gazes at her. The smiles on their faces got replaced by a cold look. Ignoring all their looks, Peyton made her way into the castle. A giant chandelier hanging from the ceiling lit the hall with its bright silver light. The marble ground and pure white walls gave the interior a majestic charm. At the moment, numerous guardians were going with their work, and several noticed Peyton. Just like those guardians outside, all of them had a cold look on their faces. Visit. For a better user experience, Peyton. From the crowd, Peyton heard someone calling her. She turned in the direction of the voice to see Zanali, her best friend, running towards her. Peyton. Zanali pulled Peyton close, hugging her tight. Thank the gods you're all right. She squeezed Peyton, refusing to let her go. At least someone is glad to see me. Peyton expressed her thoughts. Zanali finally released Peyton from the hug. Let's go to my quarters and talk. Your quarters? Peyton frowned. Before Zanali could answer Peyton, She asked another question. What happened to my quarters? Zanali avoided eye contact while wringing her hands. Well, talk about that. Come on, Zanali grabbed Peyton by her hand before dragging her towards a polished door made of white wood. Peyton's quarters was just a couple of doors away from Zanali's. When she saw her quarters, the door had no nameplate as it used to have. Zanali opened the door to reveal a spacious room with fancy sofas and tables. The floor was wood, not marble like outside. The walls were painted and decorated with a crimson-red wallpaper border. The room was lit by the chandelier and the several orbs attached to the walls. The room was done in a floral theme in light muted colors and overall had an elegant look. Among the first things Peyton noticed walking in was a portrait of a graceful red-haired woman sitting on a throne. She had a resemblance to Zanali, which indicated to Peyton that she was Zanali's mother. Zanali and Peyton sat on the cushioned sofa as Zanali began to brew them a cup of tea. I never lost faith in you, Peyton. I knew you would return, Zanali said, giving the cup and saucer to Peyton. Where is Sabrina? Tiriana and the Hunter Guardians kept everything hush-hush. But I heard. You team disappeared from the safe horse without a trace. Normally Peyton included Zanali in all of her teams, but due to Zanali having to leave for Nagaland, she couldn't be a part of Operation Desert Eagle. But everyone, including Tiriana and Tanulia, thought Peyton recruited Sabrina. In truth, Zanali was the one who recommended Peyton take Sabrina in her stead. I saw the way everyone looked at me. What's happening here, Zanali? Zanali sighed as she placed her hand atop Peyton's. She tried to console her by gently squeezing her hand. Visit. For the best known as the experience. Those idiots are thinking you led Sabrina into a trap because what? Peyton furrowed her brows. Because the higher-ups promoted Noah to captain instead of you. Peyton clenched her. The anger within her exploded like a volcano. Her eyes turned red due to the veins popping out. They think I led my team into a trap and killed them because I didn't get a promotion. Peyton asked, gritting her teeth. They are idiots, Peyton. Don't give a damn about what they think. They all like Noah, and that's why they've been acting like this. When you tell the truth in the hearing, they will realize how wrong they are. Her words were supposed to calm Peyton down, but instead, when Peyton heard her, her rage multiplied by several folds. Zanali noticed Peyton's hands trembling. Yeah, everyone like Noah who spends most of his time doing God knows what, but they don't give a shit about those who risk our lives for the guild and its principles. Ching. Peyton crushed the teacup before standing up. Even you asked me where is Sabrina? Not what happened to you. Peyton's voice stuttered. She didn't raise her voice even though she was raging in anger. To be honest, she couldn't raise her voice. The mix of emotions she was feeling right now suppressed her voice. Peyton, it's Dash. Tell me, Zanali, the Desert Eagle operation is supposed to be off the books. How did the rest of them know about it? How did they know who was in the team? Peyton's eyes welled up behind her glasses. The Alpha Guardian. She asked, disclosed the operation and asked everyone to look for you. Peyton let out a miserable smile as she shook her head. Not me, Zanali, Sabrina. They asked the Guardians to look for Sabrina. Zanali couldn't rebuke because what Peyton said was the truth. The Alpha Guardians specifically told them to search for Sabrina discreetly. As far as the Winston family was concerned, Sabrina was in seclusion at Holy Trident Academy. Since Noah left Elon searching for something, he had no idea about his sister's disappearance. The latest _AP_SODIes are on website. Do you know what they did to me? Knock, knock, knock. Just as Peyton was about to reveal what happened to her in the southern continent, someone knocked on the door. Who is there? Asked Zanali. The hearing is going to begin soon. Peyton didn't need any explanation. She knew the hearing was for her because she expected this to happen. The Dark Lord and the three-headed creature were right. Regardless of what she wanted to believe, everything they told her had been the truth. She started to think the Dark Lord may have been right all along. Things went just as we guessed, huh? Michael nodded at Iag. We have to turn her now, Ghost, said Kane. The system upgrade is completed. Current system level 5. 0. The system sounded in his mind, interrupting their conversation. The host can now have up to 20 subordinates. Michael was waiting for the system to afford more subordinates. Now he could make Peyton as well as Daniel his subordinates. Speaking of Peyton, she could come to the location any day from now, Sarba said. Before we meet Peyton, I still have got some answers from Victor. Vidora saw several herbs and weird-looking objects appearing in his hand. After taking out these alchemy ingredients, Michael conjured the dark flames and threw the ingredients one by one into the flame. What are you making? Asked Iag. The normal truth-extracting pills aren't working on Victor, so I'm making my own. That's amazing. If we can make our own potions and pills that make our foes spill out the truth and secrets, we could stay 2 steps ahead of them. Always, Sarba grinned, only to see Michael shake his head. Unfortunately, there aren't any pills and potions that will make people tell their secrets without some kind of side effect or restriction visit. For the best known to serenity experience, what about the one you're making? What kind of side effect does this one have? Asked Iag. Nothing big. He will just die after few hours. It was pretty expensive, but it was worth the price. They will have no choice but to give her a promotion to Guardian Captain or even a higher position as she deserves. Yeah, makes sense, Iag nodded. Obviously the Guardians will try to keep their existence a secret. Michael tossed the orb in the air and caught it. But I'm gonna record everything and send everything to 2 places. Iag grinned widely as she liked the way the plan was going. Tell us where? Sarba asked excitedly, failing to contain his curiosity. First to Nadia Hall, the Royal News journalist. Next place is the Holy Church, according to the book Michael bought from Lord Information. The relationship between the Holy Church and the Guardian Guild was a rocky one. The priests hated the Guardians and vice versa. Revealing the existence of the vampires would destroy their deadliest weapon: secrecy. On the other hand, by exposing the Guardians' intention to hide the existence of vampires, he planned to cause chaos among the Guardians, as it would put so much political pressure on the Guardians, thus throwing a wrench in their plan to catch him. 1 stone, 2 mangoes, that was Michael's plan. It was not an elaborate and complex plan. Michael always went for the simplest plan instead of making complicated plans. He believed the less complex a plan is, the better. He would have sent an anonymous note to the Winston family that the vampires have Sabrina. But if he had done that, Rowena would have been involved in the search with all the resources of Skyhall. No matter what, he must get the key before the vampires or the Skyhall. Michael still didn't know Noah already had 1 key, and he was currently hunting for the arrows forged by the Mazeroth founders. Nightfall arrived with a whisper of perfect black that grew into a comforting chorus of stars. At the edge of the Elon continent, where the Crystal Ocean began, Peyton was waiting for the Dark Lord. Her legs were pacing left and right, and her mind was just as restless as the sea before her. Visit. For the best no-under-surveillance experience, no matter how hard she tried to make sense out of how they treated her, she couldn't come up with a way to calm her mind. She felt betrayed by the Guardians, and that feeling destroyed everything she held for the Guardians. Now all she had for the Guardian Guild was pure hatred. The center of her hatred was none other than Noah Winston. Ever since he came into her life, everything she worked for went out of her hands. Her hatred pushed her to the point she was ready to sell her soul to the devil if she could see the guild crumble into pieces along with Noah. While she was pacing back and forth, she noticed the surrounding area growing darker and darker. Instinctively, she looked up at the sky to see the Dark Lord descending to the shore with a man who had his head covered by a sack. The 3-headed creature was comfortably sitting on his shoulder. Despite the full moon and the millions of stars in the sky, the beach became dark as though they had all lost their light. I reckon you've seen the real face of the Guardians, Peyton, Michael asked the moment his feet touched the sand. Yes, I did, Peyton answered, gritting her teeth. He was glad to see the burning rage in her eyes. He could turn that rage into a weapon against the Guardians. Are you going to destroy them? Peyton asked. The world needs Guardians, Peyton. just not this corrupted guild. I am going to reform them with your aid. By reform, Michael meant turning the guardians into his underlings. He would make his trusted subordinates rule the guild, and by doing that, he would subdue the guild under him. If Peyton served him well, she could have the guild for herself. Before knowing about Skyhall, he thought guardians were his enemies and planned to destroy them. Since it wasn't the case, as the real enemy was revealed to be the Skyhall, Michael knew subduing the Great Eight clans would be the better choice than destroying them. Your loyalty was misplaced, Peyton. You know this now. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, Sarba said. I want that bitch dead. That's my price, Dark Lord. If you can bring me her head, my soul is yours. Her words stunned Michael for a moment. He knew she hates the Alpha Guardians. He didn't think her hate would push her to the point she wants Tanulia dead. Peyton's loyalty was crucial to his plans. Only with her, he could destroy the Guardians from within, because that's the only way to dismantle the guild without getting himself killed. He was still not strong enough to openly go against the guild. She killed innocent people when she raided my ship. It's time she pays her debt with her life. Although it was risky and difficult to assassinate Tanulia, it was certainly not impossible for the #1 hitman. He kicked Victor towards Peyton. Bring him to the guild and prove the Guardians' vampires exist. I'll exonerate you and get the promotion you deserve, as he said. He slowly ascended to the sky. In 2 weeks, meet me here. I will grant you your wish. He uttered these words before disappearing into the darkness. With his promise to Peyton, the preparation to assassinate Tanulia Valrin, the Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians, began. Important news. Visit. For a better user experience, Michael will meet Dawn, MC of Rise of the Legendary Emperor, Draven, MC of Anti-Hero with a Symbiote System, and Hunter, MC of Dictator with a Badass System, soon. Although you don't need to read those novels, I will recommend you do check them out, especially HSS. Dictator with a Badass System will be released after Michael meets Hunter. You're tuning in to the Legend of the Vagabond YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.